calling to order the regular Pacific Grove Unified School District Board of Education meeting Thursday, October 5th, 2023. As we begin this meeting, it's important to pay respect to and acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Ohlone, Costanoan, and Esselen people, and additionally pay respect to elders both past and present. Mandy, do you mind doing roll call, please?
President Swanson.
Here.
Clerk McNary.
Here.
Dr. Hazen.
Here.
Trustee Otmar.
Here.
Trustee Swanson.
Here.
Interim Superintendent Jordan.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We definitely have a quorum tonight. All board members are present. Next up is adoption of the agenda. We'll go out, see if there's any board discussion on this, and then go out to public comment. Board, any discussion on adoption of the agenda? Brian,
Yes.
you're shaking your head. Clerk McNary?
Yes.
Please.
Perhaps we note the changes to the agenda and then I can make my comment.
Certainly.
Okay.
So the only changes we have to the agenda tonight is revised item B, and that's the minutes from September 21st. We updated the board's comments. The item was revised, posted online, and it's in your blue folders.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. That's all that you have, correct? Okay. Clerk McNary?
Thank you. In looking at the agenda, specifically our closed session items, number 4, it reads conference with legal counsel dash potential litigation, and then cites to a government code. I guess looking at the word potential, the item didn't seem right to me. So I looked at the code section that we cite on the agenda. And it doesn't seem accurate to me. I mean, number 1, the code section requires more specificity than we have in our agenda. And it also requires that the legislative body, it really only lists, okay. Code session lists 2 things, either litigation or pending litigation. It doesn't have, from what I can see, room for potential litigation as listed on our current agenda. So in my opinion, based on what I'm reading and the information I received from Superintendent Jordan through legal, we can't talk about that item. So that's where, I guess that's where I'm at. I know that was probably roundabout and confusing, but I don't see how the code section provides us to talk about something called quote potential litigation. And if it does, the code section requires us to cite to which subsection of the law the litigation falls under, which doesn't appear on our agenda as presented. So,
Okay, so you're saying that number 4 on closed session, you would like that pulled and reviewed because you're not certain that it's accurate or should be discussed in closed session or that it's properly cited. Is that right?
yes, thank you for saying that concisely.
I don't know if I did, but
Oh.
you're welcome. Okay, so
Madam President,
yes,
can I defer to legal counsel for a quick explanation related to this matter?
I believe so. Sure.
Okay.
Hello, Lou. Do you mind going up to the podium so we can, for public record?
I don't think that microphone is on. Oh, no, it's red, right? Yeah. Got to hit that button. It'll come up green. There you go.
Okay, thank you. There is a section in the Brown Act that provides language that if you use this language in describing closed session items, you are deemed to have complied with the Brown Act. It's called safe harbor language. And that language is actually different than what is on your agenda. It talks about anticipated litigation rather than pending litigation. But the safe harbor language is not mandatory. It's suggested, and if you use it, you're deemed to have complied with the law. The point of having items described on the agenda is to notify the public of what you're going to be talking about, okay? The section, the safe harbor would have said, or should have said, anticipated litigation, and the correct code section is, it is actually government code section 54956.9 that is cited, but it's subdivision D2 is the correct, should be the correct reference. And D2 is a point has been reached where in the opinion of the legislative body of the local agency on the advice of its legal counsel based on existing facts and circumstances, there is a significant exposure to litigation against the local agency. Okay. As you may have known, I was out of the country for a short time, but I was watching the news and and having things emailed to me, and I did happen to see a press conference that was described in the local paper, at which a member of the community had stood up and threatened to sue the school district. I believe that's what this item refers to. Now, if you wanted to be absolutely squeaky safe, beyond challenge, you can defer it to the next meeting. If there's some urgency to talk about this tonight, I think that there is sufficient information here to communicate to the public that there is potential litigation, and that's what you're going to be talking about. If there's some urgency that you wish to talk about it in closed session.
What's your take on, because if I was a member of the public and I read this, I would not know what it was about except anticipated litigation. And I feel that even trustees looking at it wouldn't know really what it was. So can you speak to that? Are we putting enough information in the closed session description?
We can always do better. I'm not saying that it's perfect. But it provides, I guess it's a matter of opinion. Had it said anticipated litigation instead of potential litigation, would that have provided more information to the public? And that is a matter of opinion. To me, I think that the public would know that if you're saying you're potentially being sued, it is not too dissimilar from anticipated litigation. So I think that there's enough basis or communication to talk about it if you choose. If you wanted to be squeaky clean and absolutely beyond challenge, you can defer it to the next meeting and describe it in the form of the safe harbor language.
Thank you, Mr. Lozano. Let's go around, board members.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Certainly.
Please, since while we have legal.
Mhm.
I'm looking at the code section cited on our agenda. Subsection D says, prior to holding a closed session pursuant to this section, the legislative body of the local agency shall state on the agenda or publicly announce the paragraph of subdivision D that authorizes the closed session. I don't see that on the agenda. I also have trouble with the language around anticipated and potential, because looking at the plain language of Gov Code 54957, it expressly speaks to litigation and specifies what that is, and speaks to pending litigation. That's not what reads on our agenda. So I don't know that it's clear for myself or the board or the public at this point.
There is no pending litigation at this time. However, 54956.9 subdivision D2 authorizes closed session when there is a threat of litigation.
The code section reads litigation shall be considered pending when, and then what you're citing to. It doesn't say what you're saying. I'm confused.
Well, I can read the code section.
I have it right in front of me. That's where this confusion is coming from, because the language of our agenda does not comport with the language of the code section.
No, it does not.
So would you advise us then as our attorney to continue the matter so that our agenda can be clear to the public and for ourselves what we're discussing?
That's the safest course possible. There would, if it is agendized, absolutely consistent with the safe harbor language, you are beyond question, beyond reproach. I don't know if there's any urgency to talk about this matter.
I don't know
If
that
there's no urgency. If there's no urgency, then it could be easily deferred to the next matter.
I think
next
the
meeting.
law doesn't say if it's urgent, you can call litigation something other than what this code section says. It's clear. I guess I'll just leave my comments at that and say, I'm not comfortable approving the agenda with this item as listed currently. I don't think it's accurate.
Thank you, Clerk McNary. Trustees, any other comments? If not, we'll go out to public comment at this time, but I want to go around. Elliot, please.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate your attention to detail, Trustee McNary. I think if our legal counsel feels that there is a point has been reached where there is significant exposure to litigation, that is an important item to be discussed. I would ask, can we modify the agenda to make it clear? Okay, if we cannot, I think I would trust our legal counselor and our assistant superintendent as to whether it's something that we need to talk about at this meeting or not.
Okay, briefly then, Mr. Jorn, the urgency component, is there an urgency in your mind for us to discuss this tonight?
I don't believe there's an urgency for us to discuss this tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We'll leave it at-
Laura, did you have anything, trustee Otmar? And Mr. Jordan, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have further important information or?
No, I just think that, well, there's pertinent information that does need to be discussed in closed session related to this matter. Can it be deferred to another board meeting? And the answer is yes.
Got it. Thank you so much. Trustee Otmar?
My preference is to continue with the agenda as presented. I guess I'm not seeing the pressing issue. It does seem a little bit like nitpicking personally. And so I trust legal counsel and I'd like to move forward as is.
Okay, trustee Brian Swanson?
I'll echo what trustee Otmar said. It's like, I feel like we're safe enough to go ahead with the agenda as presented. You know, I do think that to a degree it is the matter that we're discussing, that nobody's actually saying what we're discussing, but we all know what we're discussing is, you know, it's like, it's something we need to talk about. And I think we're in a safe enough place legally to do that, you know, without getting into the nitty gritty of like, you know, this one thing and point such and such of the law. I think we're in a safe enough place to discuss it. So, I mean, I would move in favor of continuing with what we've got in front of us.
Thank you, trustee Brian Swanson. We're going to go out to public comment now. And Louis, will you check and see if there's anyone with their digital hand up online? And looks like we have Miss Ackerman, please.
Hi, Mandy Ackerman, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent and Board of Education. I build the agenda and the board packets, and I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I have a cheat sheet for closed session items that I use to copy and paste when an item is requested. So my items are from a time that could be outdated. So that's where that came from. It didn't have that D2, so that was just an error on my part. So thank you.
Thank you greatly. Thank you so much for your public comment, Mandy. Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment at this time? Louis, you don't have anyone online? Okay, and I don't see anyone here in person making their way up to the podium. Very quickly, board, any further comments? Okay.
No, yeah, I do. You know, time and time again, we do see these things come before the board and they can seem vague or even completely like, I have no idea what this is. If you're looking at it from just a member of the general public having no idea what it is, but it's a closed session item. So I don't know moving forward how we do a better job without disclosing information that we need to actually not disclose. It's vague kind of for a purpose too. So I think that's worth pointing out and worth discussing in the future how we manage those things, but they're kind of vague for a purpose too, to protect the people that are involved.
I can't help but think about the recent city council agenda that I was just reading, and in their closed session, it had a line that actually it had the government code quoted, and then it said complaint by employee of harassment or something like that. Don't quote me, but it was something like that. Now, I think that adding one sentence like that, not naming the parties, not naming any of the details, I think that going forward is a discussion that would be really valuable for the board to have.
Can I suggest we put that as a future agenda item? Because I agree with that, but I just don't know if this is the time if we have closed
Yeah,
matter,
it's not,
closed session
it's
matters
not
to
exactly the
discuss.
time.
We should
Yeah.
be going to closed session to discuss that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So Elliot, are you going to bring that up for future agenda? We make a note at the end of the meeting,
I would be happy to. I have a
or
few
Mr.
others,
Jordan? Okay,
but
great.
I'll make a note.
Okay, so now that public comment is closed out and the board has discussed the adoption of the agenda, do we have a motion to accept the agenda as it, either as is or with number 4 continued?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Mandy, do you mind if you're back already to your desk? Do you mind doing a vote on that, please?
Yes, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Nay.
Thank you.
So the motion passes 3 in favor, trustees Brian Swanson, trustees Otmar, trustees Elliot Hazen, 2 dissenting, Carolyn Swanson and Clerk McNary. With that, the agenda has been adopted.
President Swanson, just a quick point of order.
Yes, please.
I'll just say I'm not sure how to bring this up, but if you could refrain from making comments under your breath, I would appreciate it. It's distracting and it's hard to pay attention to the meeting.
Thank you for that point of order. Okay, regarding closed session. I'm going to identify the closed session topics that have been approved by the approval of the agenda. Number 1, negotiations, collective bargaining session, planning and preparation with PGTA for the 23-24 school year. Number 2, negotiations, collective bargaining session, planning and preparation with CSEA for the 23-24 school year. Number 3, public employee discipline / dismissal / release / complaint, 1 case. Number 4, conference with legal counsel, potential litigation. And those are the 4 items identified in closed session tonight. Do we have any public comment on closed session topics at this time? We'll just give a moment. Thank you so much, Louis. We've given a couple of seconds. It appears that no one online has their digital hand raised. And I don't see anyone here in person making their way up to the podium at this time. So I will close public comment. And with that, we will adjourn to closed session. It is 5:47. Steve's back. Waiting for Mr. Jorn and Mr. Brian Swanson at 6:31. Everyone, welcome back. I'm going to now report the action taken in closed session. Thank you all for being here. It's lovely to have folks in the audience. Number 1, negotiations, collective bargaining session, planning and preparation with PGTA for a 23-24 school year. Information was received. Number 2, negotiations, collective bargaining session, planning and preparation with CSEA for 23-24 school year. Information was received. Number 3, public employee discipline / dismissal / release / complaint, 1 case, information received. Number 4, conference with legal counsel, potential litigation, information was received. With that, Dr. Trustee Elliott, will you do the Pledge of Allegiance? Will you lead us? Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm looking now at the next part of the agenda, which is written communications, and I'm realizing that I completely failed to go through my emails and make a list of those tonight. So I will bring them for the next meeting and we will follow up on those. But in the meantime, if any trustees have any they want to mention, please do.
I'll go. I received an email regarding public comment on staff support for the agenda item on staff support for incidents of race and bullying. I received an email regarding the superintendent search, one regarding the mayor's proclamation on Banned Book Week, and invitation for complimentary AED online training. That's all I had from last board meeting.
Thank you so much, Clerk McNary. Dr. Hazen?
No additional ones to mention.
Okay, Trustee Otmar?
I received some of those, but then in addition, a question about when to make a public comment.
That's a great question. Trustee Brian Swanson?
Nothing for me. I could have, sorry, I did not go through and summarize everything either, so
Okay.
we can catch up later.
I, in the meantime, have pulled up my emails because I just hate the idea of me not having these for public record at this time. So I'm just gonna summarize them quickly. And Mandy, you're listening. I will type these up for you so that it's a little bit easier. So I had an email that was kudos to the district office staff. I had an email about blocked websites. I had an anonymous letter to the board. I had an email from Monterey County Weekly, a media request. I had an email related to shade structure and lunch at Forest Grove. An email in support of a staff member. An email related to the high school track. An email related to Prop 28 and music aids. An email. I'm not sure what that one was. An offer of help from the member public with their expertise. An email about a student matter. 2 emails about a student, 3 emails about a student matter. An email about local agencies that can provide training on racism. Two of those emails. 3 of those emails. Another anonymous letter. I got an email related to selecting the next superintendent. And an email related to curriculum. And I'm sorry, but I just don't want to skip this. 2 more emails related to local entities that specialize in race relations and intergroup. I want to say intergroup kindness and acceptance. And an email about a banned books proclamation. So thank you all for your patience on that. I just didn't want to skip it. With that, trustees, any more written communications? Did I shake any loose as I was speaking about those? Okay, thank you. Next up is board member comments. Trustee Hazen, do you want to start? Sure.
Thank you. And I apologize that I'm probably reading more than looking folks in the eye, just to make sure I say what I want to say. And I would like to address the concerns raised during last week's board comments. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge that racism is deeply rooted in the history of our small community and our country. It is evident that there are children and families who have not felt and still do not feel welcome within our district. This is unacceptable and demands immediate attention and concerted efforts from our district. But we are fortunate to have a wealth of experience among our educators who I will support and encourage to collectively work on finding solutions and making this district better. I'm wholeheartedly committed to ensuring our community understands that racism, along with any other form of bigotry, has no home at all in our district, striving towards a district that is welcoming and supportive to all. I also want to touch upon the comments made as it relates to board governance, because it's an important reminder, I think, for us all. As a single board member, myself, I have no power or authority. Our strength lies in our unity as a board, and it is through collective decision-making that we wield any power at all. I've been truly heartened by our ability to come together and confront some of the most challenging decisions. However, I want to emphasize to the board, the district, and the public that our best path and only path forward is one where we collaborate wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hazen. Clerk McNary.
Thank you for those comments. I wanted to highlight a bright spot in our district this week. Out at the middle school, I received as a parent their first newsletter for their Speak Up, We Care mental health campaign. And I was dazzled, I guess. I was really impressed. I loved that the campaign has been a proactive approach to reaching students and families. I appreciated their attention to details, and they included a video that was shot at the school that the students participated in, the staff, and it looked like a lot of effort and care and love went into that. So they also had their first wellness fair recently, and I just do appreciate the efforts that are being made, especially at that site, to encourage kids to advocate for themselves and also create a safe space for all of our kids. So, yeah.
Thank you, Clerk McNary. Trustee Otmar.
I have no comments tonight, but just to say, thank you for what you said, Elliot. I appreciate that and I second that very much.
Thank you, trustee Otmar. Trustee Brian Swanson.
Well, I hadn't intended to, I didn't have anything prepared, but I did want to thank Dr. Hazen too for your remarks. I think that it's a unifying message. You know, there are things that we need to deal with and take very seriously. I think we do, but I think it needs to be reiterated from time to time to what we do as a board, and we're a board. It's just like, we're not 5 people. We're trying to, ideally, I believe at least, to work as a unit and present a unified message. And I hope the public knows, again, it's like, I can't speak for the entire board, but that I'm certain that the board, that one of our primary interests, well, our primary interest really is to the students, but how do we create community? How do we bring everybody together? And how do we speak as often as possible with one voice? So again, Dr. Hazen, thank you for your remarks. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, trustee Brian Swanson. And then I have 2 quick remarks. One of them was actually about the middle school Speak Up We Care program. I'm consistently impressed with the efforts at the middle school. First, the mental health fair that they did on a weekend. Weekends are a big deal to educators. I thought that was really a demonstration of their commitment to go and do that and set the whole thing up. And then also this newsletter that they sent out, I thought it was it was professionally made, but I thought it came from a professional firm. It had a video that had music and graphics, and it was really supportive and I thought just so excellent. The other thing is Forest Grove lunch is an opportunity for children to eat outdoors, from my understanding. But also from my understanding, families are not aware of that. So is there any way that we could get messaging out? Because at the beginning of the year, it wasn't an option to eat outdoors. And so now I was talking with a parent today and they mentioned it, so I put it in my comments. So that's on my mind. After that, interim superintendent, Mr. Jordan, please.
Thank you, President Carolyn. So I've got a few things to update everyone on tonight. Let's start with the school safety survey, the threat and risk assessment. We had around 100 family responses for the survey that went out. That means that we have enough parents that have been suggested they would be interviewed because that's the second phase of this. We do a survey, then we do interviews. We did interviews with the sites. So phase 2 is to interview the families. The summative summary will be sent to us in November for a December presentation by Kimball and Associates. And then I sent out a summative safety summary yesterday for the month of September, what was transpiring in the district related to that safety project. The National School Public Relations Association, NSPRA, I'm going to refer to them as NSPRA. The update I have today is the survey is still being circulated to staff and community. We plan to perform another pulse survey, a check-in right before fall break to try to increase the number of respondents. The scope of the project for NSPRA is a communication review of practices, protocols, communication sent by the sites and by the district office. The Carmel Authors and Ideas Festival was heavily attended on the 22nd of September. Our entire 7th grade class, 165 students attended, and they all sent thank you letters to the Authors and Ideas Festival folks. So I think that was a wonderful thing. And lastly, and most critically, I would like to state openly that our district remains committed to encouraging learning in and out of the classroom, which includes a dedicated focus on empathy, healing, and inclusivity to our community of learners. While PGUSD has made some progress to this end, our educational community must still do more to recognize and remove racism, intolerance, and bias from our schools. To highlight one area of focus, just this week, our administrators began a 5-part series, which will be discussed later under information item A and summarized by Director Rogaman. Also, the district's cultural proficiency work, which began in 2022, has begun the process of diversifying instructional material, looking at grading for mastery and equity, and developing methods of learning that will highlight every culture that contributes to the educational experience here at Pacific Grove Unified School District. Our district will continue to inform the public as we develop and implement training programs and systems such as the See Something, Say Something reporting system, which the anonymous reporting tool from Sandy Hook Promise will be brought to this board for information item on the 26th of the month. I encourage our community to stay connected, actively involved, because we do value all input to support change in our schools and in our community. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Jorn. With that, we're going to transition into the part of the evening where we ask for individuals desiring to address the board to either raise their digital hand online or come up to the podium. I am going to read this disclaimer. It's a little bit lengthy, but just needs to be done. So public comment on any item of interest to the public that's within the board's jurisdiction will be heard. The board will also take public comment on each specific action item prior to the board's action on the item on the agenda. Any individual wishing to comment on a specific item on the current agenda are kindly asked to wait until that item is being discussed. The board will allow a reasonable amount of time for public comment on each agenda item, not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker and no more than 20 minutes per agenda item pursuant to Board Policy 9323. Speakers will be called sequentially until there is no speaker coming forward on the agenda item or the amount of time allocated for the agenda item has elapsed, whichever comes first. This meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting of the board conducted in public. Please note that the Brown Act limits the board's ability to respond to public comment, and the board may choose to direct items to the administration for action or place an item on a future agenda. So first, we're going to start with PGUSD staff comments on non-agenda items. So if you have a comment on an agenda item, please wait until we get to that item that's on the agenda. Otherwise, oh, lovely. Okay, wonderful. Ms. Sungusi, please.
As a mother of a Black child, a veteran teacher, and an alumnus of PGUSD, I do not know how to explain to you, all of my supervisors and colleagues, friends and mentors, and above all leaders of this beloved community that generations of my family have served, how deeply hurt that I feel about nearly all of you choosing not to attend, nor to even speak to our staff about the recent press conference on the trauma of 3 young, precious children at our school. I want you to know how it felt at that press conference held right outside my classroom, and all the days thereafter to be the only teacher, aside from one friend from Forest Grove, who agreed to stand at my side, because she knows some of my own son's experiences with racial trauma in our schools, and mother to mother, human to human, she knew this would be hard. But if you are one of the approximately 30 PGUSD staff members to have served with me on our cultural proficiency team, and particularly our district admin team, you should already know that too. Most sports coaches in our region know about our racism in Pacific Grove because they have heard the racist slurs that many of our athletes have indefensibly used against our opponents. Every African-American elder who approached my son with concern when he was wearing a PGHS sweatshirt at the Monterey Jazz Festival knows the reputation our community has earned through the historical and actual traumas that many still ignore and/or deny. Every child and adult who has had to endure and respond to the N-word on Robert Downs, Forest Groves, PGMS's, and PGHS's campuses knows this. Even the PG Police Department knows how dangerous and terrifying this kind of trauma can become in our hometown because they have intervened when a PGMS student targeted African-American, Latinx, and LGBTQIA+ classmates with horrendous racist and homophobic slurs and threats with fake guns amplified by social media. And because this is a kind of trauma that Mel Mason warns, quote, can be both scarring and life-altering for children, unquote, a kind of trauma that Valerie Anthony explains, quote, gets into the bones and the soul, unquote. I do not wish to expose my family's most traumatic wounds to the public, particularly when there are some here who only mock and revel in this pain, while also denying that racism exists here, as 2 individuals did at that press conference, and many of their co-conspirators do at each and every DEI task force meeting in Pacific Grove, frequently amplified by the local press. Moreover, I want you to imagine how our families most targeted by racial trauma feel when you do not show up, show you care, make the time to listen or to learn, demonstrate that we all want to do better, all while the most shameless in our community come out and heckle and deny our heartbreak and our pain. How can we have any confidence as parents and staff members in our school district when our babies are experiencing racial trauma in our schools that we have already reported without our own leadership showing up and or speaking up about racial trauma in PGUSD?
Thank you very much for your comments. Louis, do we have anyone online who would like to speak at this time? Okay, Alexis Robert, are you a staff member? If so, please unmute and you have the floor. If not, your time will come shortly.
I'm not a staff member, so I'll wait.
Okay, thank you so much. It will just be a couple moments. Anyone else wishing to comment on non-agenda items tonight? And this is for PGUSD staff comments on non-agenda items, just to be clear. Okay, Louis is letting me know that he doesn't see any digital hands up, and I don't see anyone else making their way up to the podium at this time. So we're going to move on now to community members who would like to comment on non-agenda items. And Alexis Robert, now is your time. Louis will unmute you.
Okay, thanks. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Because I can't see you. Okay, great. Thank you. I wanted to echo Heather's comments and wanted to share comments in support of Valerie Anthony's press conference as she raised concerns of the treatment of her 3 sons at Robert Down. I understand the investigation by the school district found that no rules were broken, but I think that misses the point. The harm and discomfort her kids felt were real. And I'm sad that they have left the district. And Valerie was an active parent who contributed a lot to the school. And I miss bonding with her over the fact that we both had 3 boys at Robert Down at the same time. I feel like when people raise concerns about racism at schools, at our schools, the district and school leaders spend a lot of energy defending their comments or their actions as not racist, rather than engaging in the uncomfortable conversations we need to have, acknowledging the harm our comments or actions may have had, even if they were unintentional. Creating a welcoming school environment requires me and other white people in our district listening and taking seriously the concerns that non-white students and parents raise, even if those concerns are outside our experience or require us to have uncomfortable conversations or change our points of view. I expect and I'm hoping that Robert Down and the district will create safer spaces for raising these concerns, and I will try to spend more time myself contributing to these efforts. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your public comment, Alexis Robert. Hello, we have someone has moved up to the podium. Ms. Goddard, hi.
Crystal Goddard. I'm a proud parent of a 4th grader at Sixth grader at PG Middle School. I'm also the proud sister of a teacher at Robert Down Elementary School.
Do you mind starting over? Your words are so important. And Louis, can you start the
This
time
part
over?
isn't important, my intro, but I'll
Absolutely,
give it
every
again.
word is. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Crystal Goddard. I am the proud parent of a 4th grader at Forest Grove Elementary School, a 6th grader at PG Middle School, the proud sister of a teacher at Robert Down Elementary School, and the aunt of a nephew at PG High School. So together in our family, we have almost every school covered. Between 2015 and mid-2020, my sister, who was at the time raising my African-American nephew in the deep south of the United States, would call me too frequently in tears to tell me about incidents of racism and injustice that were occurring at my nephew's North Carolina schools. Each and every time I heard stories about him being called the N-word or physically harmed by his peers at school in North Carolina, I would advise my sister that she needed to get out of there. She needed to come home to PG. She needed to raise her son and my nephew in this amazing, inclusive school district. And I was elated in August of 2020 when she heeded my advice and brought my nephew home. where I was sure that he would no longer experience the racism, injustice, and racial trauma that he had been subjected to throughout his elementary school years. Boy, was I wrong. What I quickly learned is that we in Pacific Grove Unified School District are not immune to acts of racism and injustice right here in this community that we love so much. When my nephew came home from Pacific Grove Middle School saying that his notebook had been stolen by a student, only for him to find it in the trash can with the N-word scribbled across it, I was in disbelief. When he was pushed to the ground at lunchtime and told to take a shower because he needed to, quote, wash the black off of him. That was at PGMS. I couldn't believe my ears. And in the 3 years that he has lived here in PG, my family has come to confront incident after incident of traumatizing misconduct on account of his race. The accounts of misconduct are not just coming from my Black nephew. My white daughters, who we are teaching to be upstanders, regularly come home with accounts of racism and homophobia that they encounter at school. I repeat this for emphasis. We in PG are not immune to acts of racism and injustice right here in this community that we love so much. This is not an anomaly reported so bravely by Valerie Anthony in the NAACP last week. We must confront the sad reality that this is occurring repeatedly. What I have come to witness is that while we have a staff and administration in this district that I sincerely believe mean well and try to do the right thing, they are ill-equipped and just not that knowledgeable about how to go about addressing these incidents of racial trauma and abuse. So what I came here today to say is that we as a community need to listen to, believe, and learn from what the parents and loved ones of children of color are telling us about the experiences that they are having in this district. We need to show them our support and identify concrete plans for investigating and addressing misconduct that happens. We need to continue investing in cultural proficiency trainings and resources so that our staff and administration can learn about proper ways to address injustice in our community. Please, please do not think this can be solved with a single check-the-box training facilitated by legal counsel that's later on the agenda. That may be a start. It may be part of a piece of a puzzle, but as a litigator myself, I know far too well what it means to check a box for liability purposes. What we need is a clear commitment from this district to eradicate racism. We need to work intentionally and urgently to create a safer and more equitable environment for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gaudette. Is there anyone else who would like to come up and speak to the podium at this time? And we do have an agenda item later that is information item A, staff support for incidents of racism and bullying. And I would like to invite any members of the public who've already spoken to stick around and speak on that one as well if you have time. Please. Yes, you're on. And Lewis, is anyone online with their hand up? Okay, thank you. Mr. Gibbs.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, President Swanson. My name is Mike Gibbs. I stand before you as a worried dad and granddad. I felt it my duty to apply for the position of superintendent, which you are now still considering. I don't believe that Pacific Grove is a racist town, nor is the district stricken with systematic bias and hate. I don't believe that parents want extreme progressive ideology or radical DEI dogma in their schools. All parents simply want one thing. They want their kids to have a great education that makes them competitive in this very tough global economy. Right? Parents want to trust their schools, everybody. I would just quote from a well-known art author, the biggest factor driving mistrust, and there's a lot of mistrust around this issue, is surely the widening cultural gap between people who have led and thrived in our major institutions and the rest of the population. The past 20 years has seen a rapid emergence of a new elite, expensively educated, versed in progressive nostrums, increasingly distant from and disdainful of the rest of America and its values. This crowd comprises much of the nation's permanent government classes, almost its entire academic establishment, most of the people who control its news and cultural output, and a good deal of the educational elite. They subscribe to what has been termed luxury beliefs. They assert global priorities over national ones on issues such as climate change, immigration, place outside emphasis on the evaluation of racial and sexual identity, and radical ideas about gender, and insist on rewriting history to portray the U.S. as an evil nation, and some of us in the room have served, that needs to be expurged by its sins by imposing new burdens on non-elite Americans. The rising tide of popular distrust in values, actions, and leadership of this elite calls to mind the Bertolt Brecht's poem about East Germany many years ago. The people had squandered the confidence of the government and could only win it back by redoubled work. The people. Would it not be, in that case, simpler for the government to dissolve the people and elect new ones? To dissolve the parents and bring in new parents? Anyone who has lost money to a con man, believed the lies of an unfaithful partner, or wasted an afternoon waiting for a repairman who promised to come, knows that once forfeited, trust isn't easily recovered. And there is a trust before any of this happened. I've been to several of the school board meetings. It's not easily recovered. And the next superintendent will have a massive job to bring this district together. The confidence Americans place in their leaders has been in steep decline for 2 decades and won't be repaired overnight. Last thing I would say to everybody, and it's kind of my watchword, I teach it to my grandkids. I have a granddaughter that goes to school in inner city Oakland. Everybody's welcome, nobody's perfect, and anything is possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mike Gibbs. Thank you for coming, and thank you for always having your comment be exactly 3 minutes
I was online.
or a little less.
Session and I did.
We can have staff follow up on that for you. Actually, we cannot have staff follow up. I apologize. We will have leadership associates follow up with you on that. Okay, I'm just going to have one last call out for any community members wanting to comment on non-agenda items. Thank you so much. Mr. Wax, thank you for in advance for your comments.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Mike Wax. I stand here as an elite wanting progressive ideals for my children. And I know I seem like an elite in gym shorts and a hat and a terrible t-shirt. So pardon me, but like in my elite language, the rebuttal of Mr. Gibbs is that of a total boob. Like, why would you not believe racism exists when someone's notebook is scrawled with the N-word? That's totally discounting someone's actual history and experience. When I was walking down over here, because I live up the street, I was thinking about 9/11, which was 23 years ago and about a month or whatever, and seems so fresh. Like, I remember the cell phone call that my mom gave me. She was like, don't go on the bus, because I was in Austin, Texas, and that's where George Bush was from, whatever. It was paranoid. It was possibly delusional that terrorists were going to target the Capital Metro bus system in Austin. But it was so real. And then for years, we've lived with that fear and anxiety, and we've tried to course correct for that terrorism. And that is what people who experience racism feel. That is their trauma. So for you to say that you are imperfect and then just stop it is unbelievable. And this is a horrible injustice for not only Black families and progressive people, but I want to be very clear that I don't want to live in a community where you are superintendent and where these views are just sloughed off. This is a huge thing, and it's just perplexing that you would want to live in a world that continues this way of thinking.
Thank you, Mr. Wax. And we do ask at meetings that we refrain from applause. If you agree with the person who has spoken, you can give a thumbs up or a thumbs down quietly, but just out of respect for everyone's varying viewpoints, we ask that there's refrain from applause. And so, Louis, last check, anyone online? Okay, thank you so much. And thank you all for your comments and all for your patience for waiting for later if you have an item you want to comment on later. We're going to move on now to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda, if you're looking at the packet, starts on page 6. This is consent agenda is a compilation of a variety of routine items that we approve all at once, unless there is something that gets pulled by a trustee or a member of the public can comment that they would like something pulled. So at this time, Clerk McNary, is there any discussion you'd like to have about consent?
None for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Otmar?
No discussion and nothing to pull from me.
Thank you. Trustee Brian Swanson?
Nothing to pull, thank you.
Thank you. I'm next on the note list. I'm just checking my own notes here. I am good. I do not have a discussion item. Lastly, but not leastly, Trustee Hazen.
Nothing to pull. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we're going to go up to public comment. This is again, public comment on our consent agenda that starts on page 6 of our packet. Our packet is our supporting documents, and there should be a hard copy out in the lobby. If not, and you would like one or a copy of the agenda, please ask and we will get you one tonight. Okay. Louis, anyone with their digital hand up? Thank you so much. And I don't see anyone in the public moving their way up to the podium for this particular item. So at this time, I'm going to close public comment. I'm going to go back to the board and see if we can have a motion on consent.
I'll make a motion to approve consent.
I'll second. Ooh, Trustee Otmar beat me. Okay, Clerk McNary makes the motion. Trustee Otmar seconds. Mandy, do you mind majority vote, please?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. On to the next part of the agenda, action discussion. Our first item, item A, is a resolution number 1115 proclaiming Week of the School Administrator. And this doesn't have Mr. Jordan's name on it, but Mr. Jordan, do you have anything on this?
I have nothing. I was going to defer to Director
Claudia,
Claudia
okay.
Aliano.
Thank you.
It's on? Nothing, it's on, I think. Claudia Arellano, Director of Human Resources for the school district. We know how important it is for the Board of Education to recognize the hard work that district administrators and leaders do day in and day out. That is the reason why we're bringing forward proclamation, resolution number 1115, proclaiming Week of the School Administrator. So what is a school administrator? It is a broad term that is used to define many educational leadership roles, which includes the superintendent, assistant superintendent, principals, assistant principals, student services, educational leaders, curriculum and instruction, school business officials, classified educational leaders. So as you can see, it's pretty broad. So tonight, we are asking for your approval, revision and approval of Resolution 1115, acknowledging Education Code 44015.1, proclaiming the second week in October as the Week of the School Administrator. So President Swanson, I would like to ask if you would do the honors and read the resolution.
I was actually going to ask Trustee Otmar to do it, but
Okay.
I didn't expect you to ask me, so I don't like saying no. So Trustee, okay, next one is yours, Trustee Otmar. Okay, so Pacific Grove Unified School District Board of Education Resolution number 1115, Week of the School Administrator. Whereas leadership matters for California's public education system and the more than 6.7 million students that it serves. And whereas school administrators are lifelong learners who believe in the value of quality public education and providing quality service for student success is paramount for the profession, and the future of California's public education system depends on the quality of its leadership. And whereas school leaders depend on a network of support from school communities, teachers, parents, students, businesses, community members, board trustees, district and county staff and resources to promote ongoing student achievement and school success. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the governing board of the Pacific Grove Unified School District that resolution number 1115 be adopted to observe October 8th through the 14th, 2023 as Week of the School Administrator, to commend all school leaders for the contributions they make to successful student achievement. And that is the full resolution. So thank you all for listening to that. And thank you all to the school administrators for the work that is done. It's tireless, sometimes thankless work, but very valuable. So thank you all. With that, board, do you have any comments that you would like to make surrounding this resolution item? Trustee Ryan Swanson, your eyes lit up, so I'm going to start with you.
Of course, we have some, we have some really, well, everybody that's new is really wonderful. But just across the board, when I think about our district and admin, there's so many moving parts and you guys keep them moving. I am really proud of this district and what we're doing with educating our students. And I don't think there's anybody in an admin position right now that does not every day think about the students and what we do with them and as the foundation of a great community. And so again, I can't even put it into words really, other than my heartfelt thanks for all the work that you do. And you do bring it every day. You bring your A game every day. So thank you for doing that. You should get a whole month, not just a week, but it's a start. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And what do we have planned for the week of the 8th through the 14th to recognize our school administrators?
We do, but it's a surprise.
Okay. No, do you really, or
You will find out later.
No, I think that's wonderful. Thank you. So we're keeping it the surprise. That was my only comment. Trustee Hazen.
I mean, just to echo Trustee Swanson's words, you guys are often unseen except by those that come to the board meetings like this, and the amount of work you do to make this district a better place is really appreciated. And I'm here as one of 5 to help support you how I can moving forward. So please, thank you again for all that you have done and continue to do for our district.
Clerk McNary.
Nothing additional from me. Thank you.
Okay, it's all been said. Trustee Otmar.
All of that. And I'm just really grateful to be in this district, to have my kids in this district. You all work very, very hard. There's a lot of behind the scenes that happen. I'm sure there's a lot of sleepless nights that happen. And I'm just grateful to be in a district that is so prepared for growth, and that you are all here to support that. I appreciate you very much. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Trustee Otmar. Did I miss a trustee? I don't think I did. Okay, I did not. Thank you. We're going to go out to public comment on this item. Anyone online wishing to raise their digital hand, please do so. Any member of the public who's here in person, please make your way to the podium at this time if you would like to comment on this item. Okay. Thank you, Louis. We don't see anyone online or in person wanting to make public comments. So I'm going to close that portion and we're going to look at the board here for a motion on this item.
I'm happy to make an motion to approve.
Okay.
This item.
Thank you. Motion made by Dr. Hazen.
I'll second.
Seconded by Trustee Otmar. Mandy, do you mind doing a roll call vote for this one?
President Swanson,
Aye.
Clerk McNary,
Aye.
Dr. Hazen,
Aye.
Trustee Otmar,
Aye.
Trustee Swanson.
Most certainly. Aye. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Next up is action item B, contract for services with Qualtrics. This is a Mr. Jorn item, so I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, President Carolyn.
Sure.
So tonight I'm bringing forward to the board a contract to finalize the selection of Qualtrics to support the district with qualitative and quantitative data collection associated to support us in this district in the following areas. Recruitment and retention. They're going to be building out an LCAP public facing dashboard for the district. They'll be performing a district climate survey and the forward facing dashboard, both internal and external community relations survey, as well as the dashboard. A professional development dashboard, again, housed on the web, and an employee experience dashboard for the district. So a lot of public facing information where we can take our aggregate data and show it to the public at each and every one of the sites, as well as the district office's site as well. So all of these public facing dashboards accompany surveys, as I mentioned, They're going to be gathering a lot of information from the community as well as our staff. And then it will all be compiled in our public facing dashboards at the end. I hope that we don't end up with survey fatigue. I know that our district has been going through quite a bit of surveys right now, but it's really important that we get that information back from the public. It helps us do our jobs better, and it helps us build the information that needs to be public facing that we don't currently have in existence right now. So I'm bringing the contract forward. It's an annual contract for 1 year, and then we will reevaluate at the end of the year if the board so desires to approve the contract moving forward into the second year.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jordan. I have a question about this. So I know that the district is having a communications professional team come and do a communications review, not an audit, but a review for our district. And so when I was reading this, I was just curious. I guess I kind of thought that we would have on pause any advances or any kind of action on communications until we got the communication review, and then we could have a plan and then implement that kind of procedurally. So can you just tell me, like, how does this work with us having a communications review in the pipeline?
Sure. So I mentioned the NSPA review under superintendent's report. That is more of a lengthy process. We've just started the survey process. It's followed up with interviews. They're doing data collection from us, looking at every one of our communications from media communication to website postings, and actually how we utilize our websites for communication, as well as our Catapult Connect, how we connect to the community and to the school district folks. So that process, as I'm told, NSPA will be bringing their findings to the board sometime in January or February. That's a little bit behind kind of what we needed to get our LCAP information up on the web. We had planned to bring Qualtrics in actually last spring under the previous administration, and it did get deferred because of turnover. But we felt like it was important to bring this forward right now, specifically associated with our LCAP forward-facing dashboard, which doesn't currently exist within the district. So there are quite a few things that they can do for us. Qualtrics can. We can toggle some on and off if need be. We can push this out if need be. But the LCAP public facing dashboard was one of the most important components for us now. Yep.
Sorry, I said thank you for differentiating that for me. Thank you so much. I just want to make sure all of it gets on public record, so we're recording. Trustee Hazen, any comments?
Nope. Thank you for bringing it forward.
Okay. Are you in support of it? You are? Okay.
Yeah, I am. It's a bit clunky if you have to use it. We've had to use it for work, but it is a very good tool and one of the best in what it does. I am aware of that. So.
Okay, thank you. Clerk McNary.
I had a similar question regarding how this flowed with the communications plan. So thank you for answering that. It sounds like this is information that we really need to get out to the public sooner than later. Okay, thank you.
Perhaps are required to do?
Yeah, we would like, well, there's not a there's a requirement to post your public facing information on the web related to the LCAP, and we actually post a copy of the LCAP. It's just not a very accessible document when you're trying to look at it online. So we're trying to move forward to more accessible viewing websites. And I will mention that if we do approve this contract tonight, NSPA will be reviewing the data that we receive from the Qualtrics surveys and the public facing dashboards that we implement from the Qualtrics survey. So
okay.
It's actually going to be part of it just because of the time frame that NSPA is going to take to do their.
So in a
review.
way, it could maximize the communications
Could.
review even further. Okay, thank you so much for that. Trustee Otmar.
No, I don't have any additional questions. Thank you.
Trustee Brian.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, we have discussed as a board, so we're going to go out to public comment for this item. Louis, anybody online with their hand up? And anybody here wishing? No. Point of order for myself, but not really, but is everyone warm enough, or would you like us to turn on the, turn down the AC? Because we had it cranked up today, so I saw someone turn it down. Hey, Mandy, I'm hoping you're listening. You did? Okay, little more warmth would be fabulous. Okay, back to business. Apologies. And I was also buying time for our public to be able to raise their hand, so.
That's what 65.
Oh, it's in here?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, now we know.
Bring it up to 70.
I'm gonna go. Okay, 68, okay. Okay, Louis, anyone with their digital hand up? No. Okay, great. And I don't see anyone, not great, but I don't see anyone here working their way up to the podium at this time. So we are going to close out public comment for this item on Who? Yeah. Oh, please go up to the podium just so we can record. Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much for commenting.
I know you may not be able to answer, but like with the plan, are there like OKRs about what you're trying to get or like objectives and what you're trying to solicit beyond this was a good communication or this was bad?
Thank you for your question, Mike Wax. It's such a great question. Josh will follow up with you and let you know. It's a really great question. Josh, do you mind letting the board know too? Kind of like just, it's great for us to remember and have the talking points fresh for us for the communications review. Thank you. Great question. Thank you so much. Thank you all tonight for your comments so far. Okay, so with that, public comment is now closed. And I'll make a motion to approve on staff's recommendation if I can get a second.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Carolyn Swanson, seconded by Clerk McNary. Mandy, if you don't mind.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. With that, we're moving on to action item C, which is board calendar, future meetings. This is page 5 of the agenda, top of the page. Trustee Dr. Hazen, any board calendar items?
Yes, one that I think you brought up, President Carolyn, the governance special meeting, and I think that actually deals well with the comment made earlier about the closed session agenda as well, as that might be a good area to do that. So I'd love to try to get on the calendar
Yes.
a special governance meeting for our board to
Okay, shall we pull out our calendars?
be great.
Okay, I think that's wonderful. I do that. Oh. Okay. I've got my paper and pen calendar. Okay. So we want to have a meeting and Elliot, sounds like you're looking at maybe the we have on our, oh, it's on the same page. We have our future agenda items and I think it's possible 2 of them can go into this meeting that you're mentioning, the board self-eval and board governance expectations type of thing can all be in that meeting. Is that agreeable?
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. Yeah.
Okay. And so with that, I think sooner the better. We've got some really pressing items in my opinion. So October. We're here at October 5th. I know that Mandy tried to already move something and it was pretty booked up as far as coordinating all 5 of us. So do we have anything in October? And I want to throw out the idea of a Saturday meeting. We've done those in the past. It's kind of a day where you're outside of, it's just kind of like the energy is different on a Saturday, I say, like you get here early and you're like, okay, we're going to work on inner workings of the board. We're going to work on our relationships. We're going to work on whatever the topic is. And you're kind of here. So is there a Saturday or even a Sunday, first of all, in October? Elliot, do you have?
It is really, I mean, I would have to lean heavily on my family. My kids have activities booked solid on
Yes,
weekends,
so do mine. Yes.
Exactly. So it would be really hard if there's a time that works for others. I will do everything in my power to make that work. I would love to
Okay.
try to find a time during the week if we can, recognizing we have.
Oh, you
break
prefer
coming up.
during the week?
I always prefer during the week personally. It's just easier for.
I think that this meeting may be a couple hours. I don't think any longer than 3 hours or 3.5 hours. Okay, Trustee Otmar, what's your take? Weekends, weekdays?
I would prefer midweek. I don't,
Okay.
the weekend is the only time I get with my family, so
Okay.
I'm not willing to give that up. So it would have to be midweek. And is this a discussion that can happen offline?
No,
that
because
we
it's all
can-
5 of us.
Okay.
So the only time, really the only time we can get any work done is if we do a public meeting We can
No, I
talk about
mean
calendaring offline.
Calendaring, that's what I'm talking about, because I
Oh.
don't want to take everybody's time with like, I have a soccer game and then I've got a dental appointment.
I
and all
know.
these things. So everyone is here, I think, to speak on a different topic than our calendar.
Sure.
So I would prefer to respect everybody's time, and perhaps this is something we could arrange via email through Mandy.
Can we check in with Mandy? Because this was her
Yes.
recommendation
Oh,
to do it
sorry,
here in
Mandy.
public. So
Hey.
let's see what she feels about
Sorry.
that. Go
Just
ahead,
a
Mandy.
quick, just jumping in, what you could do if you wanted, I think this is okay, but you could push this item to the end of the agenda and, move on with the other ones. That way the public isn't sitting around, if you would feel comfortable doing that. And then we can still talk about this publicly with your calendars. The only reason why I suggested doing this publicly was, if you guys remember when we were trying to schedule that special meeting at a different date, I was just blowing up your phones for 4 hours and I couldn't find a date that worked for anybody. So
Okay.
I'll do whatever the board directs me to do. If you want to respect the public's time, maybe we could just push this item to after the information item that everybody's waiting on.
Yeah, I'm
Just
in
a thought.
favor of tabling it, moving action item C after, directly after information. Whoa, wait a second. We're in action, so we can't really move it any
Yeah,
further.
we adopted the agenda, so we can't.
It's stuck. Okay, so the options are, we either kind of flesh it out here, or we try to do it online with Mandy and go back to that.
The only thing will be that we need an action on the approval of the current calendar as it stands, because we don't have December through June approved.
The tentative one.
Yep.
Okay,
I might mention that you do have on the November 2nd meeting, the board goals study session, which is a regular board meeting. You might be able to plug it in there. I know that's a month away from what you were looking at, but just as a suggestion.
okay, which one are you talking about?
November 2nd.
November 2nd.
Okay. I mean, I guess it's up to us how pressing we feel the issues are to discuss. Elliot,
I'll give one more piece of hope is
what do you got
I had a week of travel canceled, so I have time during the week that I did not have previously. So I
in
can work-
October?
Correct. So I will work with, I'm happy to work that in.
Okay,
But I have hope we can do it in
I,
October.
sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
If it's okay with the board, I would like to then have Mandy try with us, like she does in her very talented way, emailing us and trying to get, and what week is that? Just
The week of the 23rd.
the week of the 23rd. Okay. Mandy, are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you for working with us on that. We appreciate it. And then board, any further discussion on this item? Because I just asked Mandy on my own volition. So if you're not in favor of that, please do let me know. Okay. So we do need to approve this board calendar so that we kind of put in stone our tentative board meeting, shift that from tentative to hopeful, or I don't know, tentative to more permanent. And so let me see if there's any public comment on this. I don't think there will be, and then we'll come back and do a motion, okay? Okay, Louis, any public comment on our board calendar / future meetings? Thank you. Okay, seeing no one moving their way to the podium at this time, we're going to close out public comment. Can we get a motion to approve board calendar?
Happy to make a motion to approve the board calendar as written.
All second. So motion made by Dr. Hazen, seconded by Carolyn Swanson. Majority vote, please, Mandy.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, it's 7:27. We can move on now to information discussion item A. This is also on page 5 of the agenda, if anyone is following along.
Can I request a quick, like 2-minute bathroom break or? bio break?
Absolutely. Is that okay with the board if we take a 10-minute, even because I know even though we say 5, we come, so I just want to be accurate. Okay, so 7:38, we will come back and we will start right up with info discussion item A. Thank you for the request. Oh, we're going to start back up with the meeting in about 20 seconds. I do feel warmer immediately.
Yeah, we have up to 67, 1 degree.
Okay. One. Lovely people. I wish I had all the teacher skills. Yes, start clapping if you can hear me. Yes. Okay, thank you all. 7:38, so we're back from our break. I hope we all feel a little bit refreshed and ready to discuss information, discussion item A. This is titled Staff Report for Incidents of Racism and Bullying. And the staff members presenting this are Mr. Jorn and Director Rogaman.
Thank you, President Carolyn.
Sure.
So the district back in late May began the process of curriculum development with both Sarah Kotz and Dr. Brandon Kruger, who leads the DEI collaborative with Lozano Smith. The district felt it was beneficial to have a combination of a former superintendent of schools and legal counsel for the development of the framework that will be presented tonight by Director Rogaman. The district has been working with the Monterey County Office of Education Equity Team led by Dr. Robert Nunez on vetting and modifying the current curriculum framework. The framework being discussed tonight is grounded in the Anti-Defamation League source responding to bias incidents in middle and high schools from 2020. Dr. Kruger has experience managing bias response at all levels in the districts and with boards and communities to address systemic issues. He's a trainer in courageous conversations, focused on race and inclusivity. He has 24 years as an administrator in diverse communities, rural and inner city. He has built and implemented policies and staff admin trainings associated with DEI and has done so as an administrator and a teacher, which helps frame a classroom-based perspective. Dr. Kruger's approach is not a program. He works directly with districts to create individualized protocols unique to their specific needs. The benefits of having support from legal counsel, first off, it will ensure that the response protocols comply with the law and district policies. In real time, it can help the district update policies to reflect new protocols and new framework. The legal team can help spot common errors and issues that may create liability for a district. And the legal team has a broad range of experience in hundreds of school districts in the state of California, where they can share other successes and challenges. The benefits of Lozano Smith in particular are directly tied to the closeness their team has with PGUSD and their intimate knowledge on the cases and outcomes within our district. Now I would like to turn it over to Director Rogaman, and he will give you the briefing of the 5-part series related to bias and incident response.
Thank you very much, Interim Superintendent Jorn. I am Buck Rogaman, the Director of Curriculum and Special Projects for PGUSD. And I have a lot of notes here that I'm going to refer to, but I wanted to just start by offering a sincere thanks to the people who have come here this evening and spoken to us about their personal, experiences. I know that this is, the week of the administrator, and there's a vast difference in the kind of impact you can make on a personal level as an administrator, as opposed to when you're the person on the ground in the classroom, or as I had the privilege of being the person on the ground as a coach in this district. But I was also a coach in another district, and experienced firsthand the bus ride home from a game against Pacific Grove, and listened to the kinds of things that had been said to our team when we played Pacific Grove. In my tenure as the head coach at PG High, I hope that we made some progress, but I'm not so naive to think that our players were perfect in those 7-8 years that I was coaching at PG High as well. But this work is truly the most important work that we're doing. And when we talk about the plan that we're putting together, we're not trying to fulfill a legal requirement in terms of training. What we want to do is equip our administrators to be able to respond better to incidents of bias that are going to occur in our schools. I also had the honor of serving as the principal of PG Middle School and also of Forest Grove. And I have to admit that as the principal of the middle school and at Forest Grove, the most difficult incidents for me to handle were incidents of racism and incidents of bias, because I wasn't exactly sure how to do it and what the proper steps to take were. And so what this endeavor on behalf of the district is intended to do, it's to give our administrators the kind of training that I never got, so that when they encounter an incident of bias, when something happens, that we make a culturally appropriate response to the actions that happen in our schools. With that being said, we know that we're not going to be able to do this alone, that we're not going to be able to build a program on our own that is going to allow us to have the culturally responsive actions that are going to be necessary when an incident of bias or just a flat out racist incident occurs in our schools. So we are going to call on the partnerships that we hope to be able to form through this process. First of all, to help us form the program that we want to form, and then second of all, to hold us accountable for that program. I say that with all sincerity and from a love of this district and from the sadness of what we've demonstrated in the past. So we have a responsibility to do better, and this is the beginning of our effort to do better. The first session that we had was this past Tuesday, and it was titled Laying the Foundation, and what was discussed was discrimination and bias. As Mr. Jorn alluded to, much of the content is taken from the Anti-Defamation League's response to incidents of bias in middle and high schools. But the objective of the lesson was to provide legal and a practical foundation for addressing and responding to bias incidents and creating a sustainable approach to system-wide practices based on a framework and internal accountability. What we started off with was people in the room describing their understanding of what discrimination is. And then we went on to a legal definition of discrimination. Then next, the conversation turned to bias, and our management team learned about different kinds of bias. Included in that are confirmation bias and implicit bias. Confirmation bias meaning that a person conducting an investigation may have an idea of what happened. Confirmation bias is when you value those statements that back up your thought rather than keeping an open mind and fact gathering. Implicit bias are those biases that we've been programmed with by society. And a lot of times they surface in stereotypes or just preferences toward groups based on the programming that we've had from society as we grew up. Our team participated in a couple of activities that demonstrated the subtle but significant influence that implicit bias has on human perception. One of the exercises that we did was the people on our team wrote down the names of 3 people other than family members who they would trust with their lives, who they would trust with anything. We wrote down the names of those three people, and then when we looked at those names, most of us found that those people had a lot of the exact same characteristics that we do, that we're drawn to people who are like ourselves. We tend to trust them implicitly. And that was a pretty powerful experience to recognize that. Then the team discussed the implications of implicit bias when conducting an investigation, specifically how our implicit bias can influence the process and the results of an investigation. The results of these activities was the administrative team getting a better understanding of the importance of being aware of our biases so we can conduct accurate investigations to get the whole story rather than a portion of it. The final learning objective of the day centered around understanding what constitutes an incident of bias. That was the first session. We have 4 more sessions that we are going to go through. And one of the end products that we want to have is a protocol in place for our administrative team to follow, but also for the people that are on the ground in supervisorial roles, those people who are going to encounter the children when they're at their moment of most extreme hurt, those people that are going to receive the reports from our children, that we want to have the training go staff-wide, system-wide, so that we have an appropriate response to incidents of bias. Session 2 is going to focus on prevention and preparation, and also the school policies and response protocols that we want to have. In many ways, the preparation and prevention is going to be some of the most important work that we can do. The that work kind of falls under the guise of what our cultural proficiency goals for the district are trying to accomplish. When we diversify the curriculum for our students and our students see themselves reflected in what they study, they will feel more valued when they come to school. When our students hear the stories of diverse cultures and read about the perspectives of others, then hopefully they will become more empathetic to the diverse cultures that attend our schools, and they're going to understand the pain of the words that they used when they repeat bias statements, racist statements that they may have learned in the media or in their neighborhoods. We also are going to work on building a response protocol so that all of our administrators are going to have a consistent understanding of the way to investigate an incident of bias, of the proper way to address both the victim of bias as well as the perpetrator of the bias, and to take age-appropriate disciplinary measures when the incident calls for disciplinary measures to be taken, and also to have good judgment when a restorative measure is an appropriate path to take as well. Because there are times when it's just not appropriate to try to have a restorative practice in the immediate setting. Our third session is going to focus on reporting and communication. As Assistant Superintendent, or excuse me, Interim Superintendent Jorn referred to earlier in the meeting, one of the aspects of trying to do better is that we are going to have an anonymous reporting system, and we expect the number of incidents of bias that get reported to go up. Hopefully, as our students begin to trust us more, that they come to us more often, and we begin to learn what's truly happening in the halls of our schools and out on the playgrounds and in our classes. If that happens, then we'll have a chance to put the protocols that we're going to have into place, and we will begin to address these incidents of bias so that our students understand, and our staff and our parents understand in no uncertain terms that it will not be tolerated in our schools. The other portion of this training will focus on our communication to ensure that our students and families understand our deep belief that racism in all its forms is unacceptable in our schools. We will also explore the manner in which we can communicate the specific actions we are taking to prove this commitment to our educational partners. That's session 3, that focus on reporting and communication. Session 4 is going to look at education and healing, as well as assessing and adjusting. Ultimately, we're educators, and one of the most important roles that we're going to have is helping our students understand who are on the receiving end of bias incident feel supported and safe at school. I think that's going to be one of the most critical things that we do, is take those reports seriously, drop and stop what we're doing, so that the students that have the courage to report an incident of bias has occurred at our schools understand that they have support at school, and that we're going to make our school safe for them. Knowing how to best support the student who experiences a bias incident will be another area where we'll need to reach out to our communities of color for guidance. We're going to need some help in understanding the best ways for us to support the students who are on the receiving end of these comments, the students who are victimized at our schools, the students who suffer the trauma. We're going to need some help in understanding the best way to support them. Another important outcome is that our perpetrators of bias incidents understand the painful impacts of their actions, so they will never repeat them again. As awful as it is for someone to commit a racist incident at school, if that's the last one they ever commit, then our program is going to be working. During the session, we will examine the best practices in this regard and develop a reliable way to evaluate the progress that we're making. Finally, the last session is going to be reflection and readjustment. Hopefully by this time, we will have met with some partners in our communities of color. So that we can adjust what we've designed as a team so that it truly is going to be the best possible approach for our schools in our district. I know that our admin team, the people that are on the ground at our sites, who are doing the heavy lifting every day of trying to ensure a safe educational environment for our students, are hungry for this kind of a protocol, for this kind of guidance. And so that last session is going to be for us to be able to put in place any kind of adjustments that we might need to make. Finally, I know that we have a lot of folks that are here to speak to this issue, and we'll be doing a lot of listening tonight. It's going to be important for us to hear you, and we invite you to speak from your hearts, and know that one of the most difficult things for a leader in any situation is to feel like you've let down the people that you're trying to lead. And I know that to a certain extent that we feel that way. And with that knowledge, we're humble and willing to learn. And so I think that's about all that I have to say. I think that summarizes what we're looking for out of this program. And I will entertain any questions that the trustees have at this time.
Thank you, Director Rogoman. We'll start with Clerk McNary.
Thank you. Thank you for the information. I guess starting from like a surface or not a surface level thing, fiscal standpoint, it says TBD. So I guess I was surprised to see that we have like a training program that doesn't have a price tag and that also didn't require board approval. So I'll just say that like I wasn't super comfortable with us spending money and not knowing about it with so little information. I read through this presentation and thought to myself, oh no, we didn't bring anyone new to the table. With all respect due to the people who prepared the curriculum, it was our staff and our lawyers who advised us in closed session. And at this point, I feel certain we are not the experts and not the people who should be leading. I think we're very fortunate that we live in a community and we have individuals and organizations who are experts and who do possess the professional knowledge and expertise and experience in addressing racism systemically and building relationships and building, trust within the community. I guess my thought would be that we start there and maybe pause this and maybe think about where we're directing our resources. Because right now, I guess I'm having trouble supporting this. That's where I'm at.
Thank you. Trustee Otmar?
Thank you for the presentation and for speaking from your heart. I have no difficulty supporting this. I think I support anything as long as we are actively moving forward. At the end of this, we reassess, and it sounds like that's what's going to happen. I think that there's no time like the present. I don't want to delay anything. It's already begun. I suppose within reason, I'm not really concerned about the price tag right now. I think that we've paid a big enough price and the community's paid a big enough price. And I would like to move forward with this. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Brian Swanson?
I can pretty much echo what Trustee Otmar had said. I think I'm glad that we're getting started with something, and I think the whole process is malleable as we move forward. Right now, we're looking at it and we know we need action. We have a couple of people that we have worked with, and we've all worked with Sarah Kotz before too. It's like, she's such a wonderful person and extremely knowledgeable. I don't know much about Dr. Kruger, but again, I trust that we've got good team member there. Again, I'm more concerned that we start working on it. And I'm sure that as things come to us, I'm most certain as we have to approve this and sign off on this thing for this dollar amount, that those will come to us and then we can ascertain, it's like, is this right or not? But I'm glad that we're engaging first and foremost. So, and I'll stop there. I would really like to hear, and I'm looking forward to hearing what members of the public have to say and what their insight is on this also, because I think that's going to inform everything that we do too. So this is gonna change as we move forward. And again, I'm happy that it will do that. And we need to listen and spend the money where we need to and take action that's appropriate, that addresses the issues that we're talking about. So I think it's a good first step.
Thank you, Trustee Brian. Technically, I'm next in the list of commenters, but Dr. Hayes, is that okay with you, Dr. Hayes? And I know sometimes you really, okay.
Thank you.
Um,
I probably start chomping at the bit when I want to say something about important things like this. I would echo also, first of all, thank you again for the presentation. It is a start. I echo Trustee Otmar. We need to move forward, but I do like the point you brought up, Trustee McNary, that we should be seeking additional resources when we can. This is a start. There is a lot of work to be done. One thought that came to me during this presentation is, we have a kindness week at some of our sites, for example, is what about having like an ally week? And this is a point where we teach kids that like the kindness week, maybe it's part of that, but that other kids need them. There's other kids that are facing experiences that they might not be aware of, and that it's important for them to be there for their friends, for their classmates, and maybe some of those people that might not be their friends today, but could be tomorrow, because we need to be doing exactly a lot and more. And I'm excited to see where this is starting and excited to work with you guys to see where we can bring it to.
Thank you. So my comments are on Post-it notes. So it took me days trying to find the right words after I read this item, because instinctually I felt like this is not the right approach. But I couldn't find the words to back it up, right? And as a board member, I need to be able to back it up. I do find that the more I learn about racism, the less I know. I'm so ignorant. I am so ignorant. As a white person with privilege, I am incredibly ignorant to so much of what we need to do for our schools. My fear is that the status quo will continue. In the past 3 years that I've been on the board, this is now the second very public racist crisis that we've had. I cannot imagine what else has taken place that hasn't been so public. So my absolute fear is that the status quo continues and that we're here again and again. From what I've seen, we tend to be in a really closed system. So seeing the folks that are working on this are kind of already in our closed system made me disappointed. I really thought the first step would be to reach out to our community and ask people who have life experiences relating to this and whose profession is to address and really create healing, and to ask them how to help us. Down to details like, I don't even know if the wording is proper on the item. It's called staff support for incidents of racism and bullying. I don't know if those should be in the same bucket. I don't know. Community engagement in this item. It feels to me like an afterthought. The staff report on page 85 and 86 does mention community engagement. It's number 4. The overview, the workshop series overview that's on page 87 and a little bit on page 88 doesn't have it listed at all. And I really, like, the more I learn about this, I should say, the more I feel that community engagement should be number one, and we go from there. So Director Rogaman, I was relieved to hear you say you're here to listen. So I'm hopeful that that means we may, that the staff might be open to a redirection on this item as well. I already said that. I would really like for us to look externally. We had some community experts already email us, and I welcome anyone listening to continue to email us with resources. We've heard about now NCBI, the National Coalition Building Institute, an organization named BLAAC, which is named Black. Those are two that we're really lucky to have locally. I can't stress enough my ignorance on this item. So I welcome being educated by other folks on it. And I'm really hopeful that our district will welcome that as well. I would like to see us redirect and stop this program as it is, have staff engage with our community, and then come back. Maybe have staff recommend when they can come back, but I was thinking December. Time goes really fast, I know. And the thing is, I don't want staff to feel the immediacy of it and to bring back something that is not giving it its due time and reaching out and engaging with the community and having it be informed by them at this point. So I think that approach would be how we fulfill our mission. I was reading our mission, it's at the top of our agenda, and our mission, like the first line of our mission says PGUSD in partnership with the community and with a focus on equity will challenge every student by providing a quality instructional program and a positive, safe, and stimulating environment. So I feel like my request is reasonable and follows our mission. So I'm pleading with the board, I'm pleading with staff to hear me and pause this and engage with the community. That's where I'm at right now. So with that, we have gone around to the trustees. And as we know from the pattern that we've had all night, the pattern remains. So now we're going to go out to public comment. I do want to ask the board really quickly, from a quick count in the audience, I can tell if everyone speaks, which I don't know if everyone will, 3 minutes times everyone here is going to be longer than 20 minutes. So I wanted to ask the board, are we comfortable with public comment, each individual's public comment being 3 minutes, but the cumulative time, are we okay with that being longer than 20? I see McNary nodding.
Absolutely.
Trustee Otmar, Dr. Hazen, and Brian's giving me thumbs up. So if you're here, your comment is welcome. I do ask that you keep it to 3 minutes. There is a little device on the podium that looks like a traffic light. So it'll start green, and as you approach 3 minutes, it will get to red. If it starts flashing red, I will come on and say, if you could wrap it up, and I'll give you about 10 seconds if you tend to go over, okay? So with that, anyone online wanting to comment, please raise your hand. Yeah, there'll be a numerical timer as well as the lights. That's a fabulous, thank you for the clarification. For anyone at home, we had an audience member ask about the device that tracks time. And so we clarified that question. So at this time, please, you don't have to stand the whole time, but if we could have one person in the queue at the podium, we will alternate between the podium and the online folks with their hand up. Okay, thank you. Mr. Mel Mason first.
Yes, Madam President and members of the Board of Trustees, my name is Mel Mason. I'm just recently retired from my work with the Village Project, which is an agency that I co-founded and served as executive director for about 15 years. Pacific Grove is a racist town. And let's square that away. I can talk about my own personal experiences going back to when I was 15 years old. So I just want to get that out there, because the other thing is that and Valerie, excuse me, and Valerie Anthony has given me permission to say this, but I also served as a therapist for one of her children, which means I actually ended up working with all of them around racial trauma. I'm really angry. And so when I was working with them, I had to hide, do something with my anger. I had to do African meditation or whatever before they came there because I didn't want that to spill over into our session with it. But no children this age, no children, period, no people, period, should have to face what they face. To have to show the resilience that they shouldn't have to show being 6 and 8 years old. So I don't want their experience minimized or minimalized by some statement that's not true. What they experienced was real. Let me get to what I really wanted to say, and I really do support the statements that you made, Ms. McNary, and then also with President Swanson about how this needs to happen. I went through a situation probably about 2 years ago where we had an incident at another school that I was involved with. And the then superintendent called me because we did resolve the case and stuff, but it was a pretty tough situation for a family, Black family. And so the superintendent called and said, "We want to have a meeting. I'm going to bring over everybody, from my group. And we're going to have a meeting because doggone it, we're going to form a partnership." And my thing was, yeah, okay, we'll have the meeting. But I told him I've been around a long time. And usually when people get in hot seats, then they want to come over and, as he said, have a partnership. You start hearing the words partnership and collaboration coming from people that don't even know what the word means. And so I think this is going to be a fake meeting, I said. And then he said no. And then it turned out to be a fake meeting. The policies have to be stringent. Policies have to have severe penalties for faculty, for staff, and for students if you want to have the kind of atmosphere on those campuses where that racism is not tolerated at all, because you can be suspended, you can be expelled, your careers could be over. That's what needs to happen. I know my time's running out and I'm sorry about that. But I also want to make sure that, that what you were saying is really adhered to. I have a person by the name of Danny Monroe who grew up in Seaside, who is a DEI person that's nationally renowned. I have her information, and I will be able to get that to you. I'm rushing a little bit because I know I'm over time. And I'm going to advise everybody. I'm going to sit down in a second. I apologize to everybody for going over and stuff, but this is really, really, really important. And this is a book. It's called Black Fatigue: How Racism Erodes the Mind, Body, and Spirit. And I want to read something from somebody that was a hero of mine. Her name is Ann Braden. She happened to be white. So the battle is and always has been a battle for the hearts and minds of white people in this country. The fight against racism as our issue is not something that we're called upon to help people of color with. We need to become involved with it as if our lives depended on it, because really, in truth, they do. And so I just wanted to end with that. I'm certainly around to help out in any way that I can, but I think that President Swanson, we need to listen to you because just throwing something together, is not the way to respond to this. It needs to be diligently and thoroughly done. And that's what needs to happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mason. Lewis, do we have anyone online? We do have someone online. Miss Angelis or Mrs. Angelis, do you mind waiting for we typically alternate between in-person and online.
Yeah, no, I don't mind.
I just feel bad that you got to get up now. Sit back. Okay. Thank you for your grace on that. Lewis, please unmute the first person that had their hand up online. Okay, Brandy Trujillo Rivera, please.
Yes, thank you. My husband has grown up here, and we've heard stories from our family, and I'm not here to talk about that. I think there will be a time where maybe I can come and maybe we'll have different discussions. But today, what I'd like to say is one of the good things that I heard is that, yes, you're right. You are not the experts. Unless you have lived through it, unless you have experienced biasm, unless you have experienced racism, you don't know what it feels like. And there's no way that you would. You have the wrong people up there. You have the wrong people in the room. And I also want to mention that budget should not be an issue, especially when our children are hurting. This week, my son, who is African American, cried in the boys' bathroom 5 times. He was afraid to go to school. He cried himself to sleep one night. He does not feel safe at Robert Down. Something has to be done. It cannot wait anymore. We need outside assistance to come in and help us with this. I am certainly not an expert, but I myself have experienced biasm and racism and colorism, and I want my child to be able to look at the administrators, to look at the staff, and see someone that he can recognize, that he can feel comfortable with. I can think of one African American, I think, in the Robert Down staff, maybe. That is not enough. There is not enough minorities teaching, leading our schools to be able to make an effective difference here. And I don't know, I know I'm shaking. I'm shaking because this week has been really hard, but it's not just this week. It is not just this week. It is not just because Valerie finally came forward with something. It has been ongoing for years. And something needs to be done. We cannot wait. We cannot pause. And I agree, you're not the experts. But please don't stop. My son is hurting today. We have children in our district hurting today. Something needs to be done today, not just for the Anthony family, and not just for all the minorities that have come before them, and not just for my son, but for all the minorities and children of color and the beautiful culture that resides within them moving forward.
Thank you very much, Brandy Trujillo Rivera, for your comment. Thank you. Yes, Mrs. Angeles, please.
I'm Angeles. I've lived here for almost 50 years, I think maybe 47. I think our son was 3 when we moved here. Our daughter was 10 or maybe 8. And she went to Robert Down, and she had a racist experience with a teacher who was really very kind and well-meaning. And she liked him a lot, but he was ignorant, and he hurt her, I think unknowingly, because of his ignorance. So I have some personal investment because I'm a community member, and I don't like living in a town that's known for its racism. I grew up in Jim Crow, Maryland, 1,000 years ago, and I don't want to repeat I don't want what's happening to the children here to be a repetition of what I witnessed there. I want to object to your subject title first. It's called Staff Support for Incidents of Racism and Bullying. It sounds like the staff is supporting racism and bullying, and people do, I think messages get in that we don't want sometimes. Please say staff support for dealing with incidents of racism and bullying. The other thing that hit me was in the section 3, appropriate consequences. There is no indication of consequences for adult racist behavior, only for children and adolescents, but not for adults. And racist behavior happens with adults too. I think you need to look at that. Community engagement, number 4. I'm wondering about the teachers being invited. I understand the teachers are overworked. I understand you don't want to pile more on them, but they're not even mentioned here as being invited to be part of the community engagement. And I think that that's very, very important. I did a book, some of you may have read it, quite a few years ago with a white colleague. And I received interviews from, it's an anthology. So I received writings from 50 white people about how they know that they're being hurt by living in a society with a racist ideology. So most people had never written before. Some of them were published. One wrote me from prison. They were all white. They were male and female of several ages. They were gay and straight. And they all were wounded. Shame, fear, bigotry, breaking up relationships. Anyway, okay. So the message that I want to give you is that whether you know it or not, living here and having these experiences happen are painful to you. And if you don't know it, they're creating even more pain. So you're not doing this for people of color. Don't even begin to think that you are just doing this for the children of color. You're also, if you do this well, helping to save white children and maybe yourselves. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. And it's totally okay if the audience agrees or disagrees to, give a thumbs up or hopefully there's no thumbs down, but yeah, if you want to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down in lieu of clapping, that is not disruptive and it's considered very respectful. So thank you all. Louis, I do believe we have another hand up online. Looks like we have 3 hands up online. Okay, next up, Robin Pelk, please.
Yes, thanks so much. Thank you for this discussion. I'm happy to see that the district is having a serious conversation about this really important issue. I really appreciate what Trustee Carolyn Swanson said about the status quo, and I agree with that. I do see some great pieces in what was presented today, but just in the interest of time, I want to focus on what I think are some missing pieces. And the first is accountability. I think what happened at Robert Down and what happened at the high school a couple of years ago were clearly unacceptable. And it's not just that the racism that occurred was unacceptable, but that the district's response was way too little too late. And what we need, I think, before we can really move forward is some accountability to focus on understanding what we did wrong and that therefore what we will need to do to change the status quo moving forward. And secondly, when I see that the item on victim support is really focused on helping students who experience racism to cope with the trauma of experiencing racism. And unfortunately, I get that that's necessary, but I think first and foremost, the victim support needs to include policies and actions that stop the racism and that stop the trauma from occurring. And to that end, it needs to include any and all actions that center protecting the victim. Those need to be considered with the same urgency as we would protect a child who is threatened with physical violence, because racism is an act of violence. And our students of color right now on our campuses are clearly not safe at school. And my last comment is that we've had incredible members of the community share their experiences, which I'm so grateful for. And I think that when decisions on how to move forward are made, people of color need to be at the table helping make those decisions. And specifically, I would say Black members of our community, because at least the 2 incidents that I'm aware of were specifically anti-Black racism incidents in our school. And unfortunately, that's not something that just is going to happen naturally, because our leadership and decision makers in our district are mostly or all white. And so we need to come up with an approach that brings those members of the community to the table, not just to share their expertise, to do that, yes, but also to be part of the decision-making process. We had an incredible offer from Mr. Mason from the Village Project to offer his expertise. Please talk to him, take him up on that. It's an incredible benefit to the district to have that level of expertise and listen to the other members of the community who are people of color who've come forward to speak today. I look forward to seeing continuing work on this issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment, Robin Pelk. Thank you very much. Now we'll go to member of the public who is here in person. I believe Mr. Derek Williams.
Thank you. I'm going to say, first of all, when I got here, I was set on what I was going to say. And after listening to this, I'm now terribly confused. but I'll start with what I've written. My name is Derek Williams. I am a PG High School alumni, graduated in 1976. My family has gone back as far as 1950 in this school district. The things you are facing today, we have faced in this school since my entire life has been here. This is not an isolated incident. This is reality and culture. And for you to try to deal with this from an isolated perspective, you will fail every time. The thing that you are missing with your knowledge and your wisdom is understanding. You do not have the capacity, have not invested in the capacity to relate with other people, to find out who they are. I'm going to ask you a question, not to put you on point, not to call you a name, but I'm going to ask the question right here. In the last 90 days, which one of you have had dinner with a person of color in your house? In the last 90 days, in the last 30 days? Now, how many of you have had dinner in a person of color's house? This is why the problem exists. Because you don't have relationship and you don't understand. You want to end racism on the school districts and on the school and the campuses. What is racism? What is racism? Racism is a power-based mentality that enforces discrimination, stereotypes, and every other evil that exists around separation of people by color. If racism is power, and it exists here in this district, who holds the power? You people have to make the change if you want to see the change. I am not calling you a racist. I'm just saying you're exercising something that is outside your ability to comprehend and do correctly, because you don't have the expertise of people around you to support you, to guide you, and to undergird you when you face your hardships of reality that you deal with. If we are talking about racism, when will we talk about white privilege? That is racism. When we talk about racism, when we talk about white framing, when we talk about Black catering, when we talk about the things other than the most popular statements, when we get real and begin to have conversations with people, when will the tears fall? I've been Black a long time. And in this city, they don't let you forget it. It has to change. And it changes when you walk from that side of the desk to this side of the desk and meet other people in the middle of the floor. You cannot do this in a 5-session process. It has taken years to get here. It's not going to change in 5 weeks. I have a course called Eurocentric Cultural Reflectionism that I teach. I have people who've been through the course, and I've talked to other community leaders, CBOs in the community, who are willing to put together a package, an inclusive package to present to the district that will not take 5 weeks, that will be ongoing and become part of the culture of Pacific Grove Unified School District. We are willing to labor and put it together. And what we would like to do is be on agenda to present to you the idea and the model of what needs to happen so change will take place. I would like to be on agenda at the beginning of the year to present to this board something else other than status quo from the community of people that live in this community. The people I'm talking about, just out of the three of us, if I said Elaine, myself, Mel Mason, and Angelus, you have probably 300 years of experience in this community alone. Why are you spending $120,000 or more for somebody who doesn't know anything about this place, who hasn't got the vested interest in it?
Thank you so much, Mr. Williams. Thank you. I made a note on future agenda items, and your organization is the BLAAC organization. Thank you. And I may reach out to you so you can submit the agenda request yourself, so it's in your words. And then we will process it through our agenda committee. So that would be excellent. Thank you very much. Louis, anyone online? Yes, we do have. I think Christina Luciano is next. Is that?
Carrie's next.
Carrie's next. Thank you. Carrie's phone smiley face is now being unmuted.
Hi, I'm
Hello.
hoping, hello, I'm hoping you can hear me. I'm in the car.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Carrie Serpa. As a PG community member and PGUSD parent and employee, I agree we need a reporting system for racism, homophobia, ableism, and we need clearly defined steps for staff to follow when we encounter racism and prejudice. As educators, parents, community members, we can all tell way too many stories about students who were treated poorly in our schools repeatedly. The fact that this happens in our district is unacceptable. We can do better, and we must. I've been a part of the cultural proficiency team for 2+ years now, going into year 3, and making a plan is simply not enough. Our team has been saying that since day 2. We need action steps, including community partnering, anonymous reporting, and systemic monitoring. Our children deserve it. It is our moral imperative. And it is not time to start. It is way past due. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie Serpa. Thank you for taking the time to Zoom in tonight, even though you're a staff member and I'm sure I have to wake up early tomorrow. Thank you so much. Next up is anyone in the member of the public in person who would like to speak. We absolutely welcome to hear from you.
Good evening. I'm Laverne Baker-Leva. Thank you, President Swanson and board members and interim superintendent Jordan. I grew up here in Pacific Grove. Tomorrow night, we're celebrating our 50th reunion from PG High, Go Breakers. I taught in this district for 40 years with the adult school. I was also an evening supervisor, so I had some quasi-administrative position and role. I want to say that when we talk about racism that I experienced growing up here, so to ever hear that it's not historical or systematic is a crack up. I mean, it really is humorous, really, because there are no other words for me. It's real. And I've had children that grew up who are adults, because remember, I've been around for a little while. They attended all Pacific Grove schools, Robert Down, the middle school, and the high school. And now I have grandchildren within this district. We still have a family home in this district that pays taxes as a basic aid district. That has been going on for the last, my parents bought the house in the 60s. So to say that I'm supportive of PGUSD, absolutely. To think that you are capable of making some tough decisions and hard decisions, which really, in my mind, should be really super easy for you. Because you're the perfect white people to be doing this. You really are. You have immense power in the decisions that you make, as well as our administrators here, many of whom I have worked with, and teachers who my children have had, and coaches who my children have had, who've all experienced racism to their face, bluntly to their face and behind their backs, and often by really good, well-meaning white people. And so it is your duty as trustees to take this on personally. Now, you were voted in to take care of all children, to take care of the educational needs and the emotional needs of all children in Pacific Grove. And it is imperative that you take it seriously, which I believe you are, but please hear from our community that says it's not going to end in 5 weeks. It would be lovely. I mean, Buck, that presentation, I'd be right behind it if I thought it would work, but it won't. It's not enough. That commitment has to continue. It cannot be done in a nice, clean package, which I know PG loves. I'm a product of PG. I know we like things nice and neat. I know that. I do too. But most of this doesn't happen that way. So please listen to the community that's out here. You have professionals and not just people of, and I don't want to say just people of color, but you have community members who are white, who understand racism, who understand the hurt and the digs that happen to all of you. That if we really were able to spend some time together and could hear about your experiences, we'd get it. My friends who I grew up with would say racism didn't happen at PG High, Laverne. I mean, come on, because that hadn't been their direct experience until we would have conversation about it. So my time is up. I do want to say that I do believe you are the perfect people to get some work done. Heavy lifting, but you've got, look at all this, look at this community. I mean, I think every single person here wants to be part of it, to make a decision to help. And to Mr. Gibbs, I am part of that elitist educational system. Go Breakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Louis, who are we bouncing to online? Okay, Christina Luciano, you'll be unmuted shortly, and please go ahead. We'll let you know if we can't hear you.
Good evening, board and members of the community. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. So I just want to echo some comments that were made previously by Carrie Serpa. I am a parent of 2 students at Forest Grove and a first grade teacher as well. I began the cultural proficiency training about 2.5 years ago with Carrie and the other members of that committee. And as Carrie mentioned, we have been essentially begging to stop talking and start taking action. We do have a culture that is infused with racism and with bias, and we know that. But we have to take that knowledge and do something with it. Otherwise, that knowledge means absolutely nothing. So as Ms. Serpa mentioned, I really think we need a defined system for identifying where things are happening and taking action. There have been far too many instances that my children have recounted to me or that I have experienced directly that have not been addressed to the appropriate level. And so I really think that it is time to make a cultural shift, to start to take action, to stop talking and planning, and to really take a deep dive into supporting our students. And as Mr. Williams and other people have mentioned, really supporting the members of our community who are facing racism, but also that in turn will help all of the students within our community, which is our ultimate goal. To hear the comments made by other parents tonight that their children don't feel safe at school, as an educator in the community and as a parent, that is absolutely heartbreaking. We have got to do better. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your insight, Ms. Luciano. Thank you very much for taking your time to comment. Moving back to anyone in person who would like to speak. Okay, I see 1 member, 2 members, 3 members, 4 members, 5 members. Mr. Jealous, you are on deck. Please go right ahead.
Oh, my stomach's in a knot. This is very painful. The space we're in, where you basically initially gave an example of racism in action as an opening for this section of the meeting. Anne's grandmother said when we got married, make sure you start off like you want to end up. And you said you wanted to end up with community engagement, but it looks like a terrible afterthought to anybody who is used to being excluded. It's very, very painful. Because white people with good intentions do terrible damage, and they can go home to their white suburban comfort zone and entertain themselves. And white people are stuck in a comfort zone in many, many cases. So I'm asking you to make discomfort a spiritual practice. If you believe in love and you believe in community and you believe in the brotherhood of all people, then don't try and turn off the discomfort. Welcome it. In the discomfort and the pain is the light that will show us a way. But if you turn your back on the discomfort, you're not going to be able to help. The other thing that I'm concerned about, in addition to is the children who come to school needing to hurt other children. I have a lot of pain, also pain about them. What's going on at home that they are coming to school needing to inflict pain on other children? That's part of the tough place to get into. You know, downloading our pain and shame on other people is an American sport. It's called the shame blame game. We're all good at it. And interrupting that is a big part of this whole adventure. I support President Swanson's idea of saying, oops, we started off in an exclusive state of white folks. We need to correct that before we move on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fred Jealous, for taking your time. Thank you. Okay, it doesn't look like there's anyone online with their hand digitally raised. So at this time, Ms. Elena Loomis, would you like to? Thank you.
Hi, my name's Elena Loomis, and I'm a 40-year participant in PGUSD. My husband was a teacher at PG High. My two children went through all the schools, and I now have two grandsons, one at Forest Grove in kindergarten and one at the co-op preschool. So I have a lot of connection. I volunteered. I'm also an educator. I worked as a librarian for 25 years, 15 at Seaside High and 10 at Carmel High. And I'm also the president of the National Coalition Building Institute, the board here in Monterey County. And we're an organization that works to end oppression, discrimination. It's a huge job. And I've been involved in NCBI for 30 years with Laverne and Fred and Ann, Fred and Ann, who brought it to the community because of a racist incident that had happened 30 years ago, or 30 plus years ago now. And every year after I would work, because my main work was with students, training leaders to fight racism, sexism, homophobia, anti-Semitism, and so on. I'd think, wow, this year we could be done. We did all this great work and the kids love each other. And, then something would happen and I would go, I got to stick with it. So I've been doing this for over 30 years now, and I don't know when there's an end in sight, but I know it's out there further away than any of us would like to think. And as a white person, I know that I can't fully understand racism, but I can empathize and I can learn by listening to people of color and knowing that they're telling the truth, not doubting that because I didn't experience it, it didn't happen. It did, and it does continue to happen. And it pains me to think of my grandchildren growing up in this milieu, because they're going to pick up on it, and it might be in the way I would be abhorrent to find out. So I offer NCBI as a local resource. It's also a national organization, and we'd love to work together with Derek, with the district, in whatever way we can to help address this, knowing that it's an ongoing issue. I think 25 years ago, we did an all-day training for every staff member, teachers, classified, administrators, I believe. Not classified, but most. It was centered at each school. And we thought, wow, you know, NCBI is going to be embraced by the district. Unfortunately, it was one and done, and it wasn't done. So we need to stick with it. And I'd offer our assistance in whatever way we can. Thank you. And Laverne said, you're the right people to do this work. You're smart, you're caring, and you've got a community behind you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Loomis. Yes, please go ahead. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Sounds like I will shortly. Take your time.
Yes, hi. My name is Bruce Donay, and I've been here since 1984, almost 40 years here in Pacific Grove. Our daughter went through Pacific Grove schools, and I think most of what I wanted to say has been spoken eloquently by others here. But I think I wanted to make a couple of points. One was that, or add on to that, as I heard the presentation, it felt like it was a kind of a professional versus non-professional approach to this, the professionalism of all of this. Quite simply, I think that I tend to lean toward the experts rather than the professionals. I don't know Black experience, okay? I'm a white guy, okay? I don't know Black experience. I don't know female experience. And the only experts I see in this room are folks who are Black and folks who are female. And the only way I can understand anything is by listening, by really hearing individuals, by looking and seeing individuals, seeing people, by caring about them, by believing them, and by supporting them in their voices. And I think that's a universal. Who of us doesn't want that? Okay. When I look at this board, one of the things I heard was that people were anxious on this board to get going. Okay, let's get going. Let's move forward. Let's progress. And what I'd suggest is you go in the opposite direction, is that you step back. Okay, you step back and you begin to listen to yourselves. Because I think you were right, spot on by saying this profound ignorance as a white person, knowing what's going on. A quick story. is that in the late 60s, early 70s, I was very much of a snag, sensitive new age guy who supported women in the women's movement. I asked women friends, you know, how can I support you? And my women friends said, well, you can get together with other guys and try and figure out why you're so screwed up. And I think that's also applicable to us white folks, okay, is getting together and figure out why we're so screwed up, okay? There is an organization called Whites for Racial Equity. Again, made up of people in this community and others, okay? It's all here, folks. It's all here and it's all for you. So, and it takes work. It just takes work. And it's not going to happen in 1 week, 5 months, 6 months. It's an ongoing journey. And I speak as a person who's still on that journey. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donay. I will remember your name. Thank you so much. Okay, looks like no one online has their digital hand up. Is that Mr. Schultz? Mr. Schultz Jr., please. Oh, I apologize. Is there a queue? Are you in line?
No, please.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr.
Yeah,
Tarver.
I'll follow that anyway.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Al Schultz. I'm father of 2 Black children in PGUSD at Robert Down. I used to be a Black PG kid way back when. That was been here for 50 years. Went through the preschool, David Avenue School before it was a charter school, PG Middle, PG High. I feel like a lot of the things I have to say will be redundant at this point. Everybody's covered it wonderfully, but I guess I'll muscle through it anyway. I think that the plans that you guys have for this, not a program, for the individualized thing that's being developed for you, doesn't go far enough. It seems to be rely heavily on this kind of kumbaya and administrative education aspect, which there's value in. I believe that our administrators need education. Everybody does. But I also believe that detracts from the real need, which are consequences. And I don't see enough of that written into the program. I mean, no justice, no peace, really. I mean, it doesn't, if there's nothing to, we're all going to run stoplights if we don't get tickets, no matter how much education we have about traffic safety, there needs to be real consequences. The cultural education is needed for administration, but those responsible for the racism, they're impervious to all that. They don't care about diversity training, take it from me, I've been through all this. I mean, you think it's bad now, and I know I listen to everything that's going on, and I know I'm very familiar with Valerie, and I tried to talk her into staying. I had my own kind of selfish reasons too, not just for her, but my kids needed to see her kids there. We needed to be together there. But to no avail. Mr. Gibbs kind of denies that racism is in PGUSD. I mean, I know we don't have time for me to provide you with 50 years of anecdotal evidence, but I mean, I could do that if you want to hang out. There isn't enough time to document all that stuff that I've experienced, but I know what it's like to be excited about the first day of school and PG and getting all pumped, and then going to school and immediately being othered, and I know how crushing, that is as a kid. And, I know what it's like to be a dad and be happy to send my kids to school and send them off and see them happy, and to also have it be a dreadful experience too, because I'm afraid of what I'm going to hear when I go pick them up, I remember days when I didn't want to go to school, Valerie knows, she knows that dreadful feeling, she knows what that type of treatment does to kids, how they internalize it, the self-loathing that comes from that, that's unavoidable, no matter, even though better, you still can't keep all that out, coming at you from people that you want to belong with, I mean, I remember days not wanting to go to school. I don't want to talk to you about that. I mean, it's negatively affected education. In, my education, I remember the teachers wanting to skip me from 3rd grade to 5th grade. They wanted me to skip 4th grade, but my parents wouldn't let them because I was already getting my ass kicked after school by racists and stuff like that. And they're afraid what would happen to me if I went up with the 5th graders, when I was half their size. So, but again, community engagement is great, but unless you have the buy-in, and I know that you've heard this, unless you have the buy-in from people, it's not going to work. And we as a community, I know you mean well, but we know the difference between something that's performative and something that's legitimate. We know the difference. We recognize reactionary and defensive behavior. We've seen it a million times, and I know that you guys are well-meaning, but when you come to the table with your lawyers, and I understand, Mr. Rogerman explained that beautifully, why they were needed. It's a feeling, and we feel that, and we see that, and we're the community. We know what's up. We know what's up. You can do better. You can do better than this. Thank you.
Very much, Mr. Schultz Jr. We do have someone online with their hand up. I apologize, Mr. Tarver, if you don't mind. Oh, okay, we're just gonna bounce back. Tanya or Tanya?
Yes, this is Tanya Fadum, and I am a teacher, 2nd grade teacher at Forest Grove. And I didn't prepare comments, but I just want to provide an echo of what Ms. Serpa was saying, and a great gratitude for what all the speakers have shared, and just an encouragement for us as a district to really take advantage of the community help that is reaching out to us, and to help us get a handle on this, because even though I teach children who are very young, I do see it, and we need to do something. And I just wanted to voice my support of doing something and involving these organizations that are reaching out to us, and the people who have experienced. We just have a rich opportunity to take advantage of, and to help make changes, to bring accountability, and some action. And I just wanted to share that.
Thank you very much for taking your time, being courageous to speak. Mr. Wax? Mr. Wax is next. Okay. Yeah.
He was in line before me.
Okay.
My name is Mike Wax. I'm a father of a 4th grader at Forest Grove. To echo President Swanson's point, I know nothing, but I also kind of empathize with the position that you are all in about you're not doing right, but you also should do this. I mean, I think that's how we all feel. Like, we want to get started, but we also need more time. And in a way, I know nothing about the budget or anything like that. Maybe the scope of this plan could be limited and more finite, so as to not entangle a contract forever. But I think we should start something immediately, and then, like the former teachers were saying, you continuously improve. I mean, it's not a one-off training 25 years ago. It's something always. And so I support that. I support continuous improvement, and I also support Miss Brittany, I think, was talking about this, as well as some other people. There are a lack of teachers of color in the school district, and I feel like that was true of my childhood, and it feels like such a blind spot and such like a weird thing to have not grown up with like Black leaders in my life. And I wish that had been different, because much like Mr. Rugman was talking about, it's an uncomfortable thing, and you have to be around people in order to get comfort with them. It's like Yeah, it's relationships. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you have a lovely voice. And if you're in the community, like even like reading to kids, I'd like die for that. Like I would love to see, I know, I'm sure you've like retired and have worked very hard and just want to chill, but like, just to see someone who's not an outsider and getting like kids in trouble or like policing some behavior, but to see a role model, I feel is like so important and like what I yearn for my kid and what I wish I had. So yeah, obviously I'm not the person to like lead conflict because I called Mr. Gibbs a boob earlier and I apologize. But I think it's something that, is messy and we have to recognize is uncomfortable and just try our best. But I do hope that we do something. And I know there are lots of issues with bringing teachers of color in, mostly because Pacific Grove is incredibly unaffordable. But if our mission is that equity thing or figures in equity, that has to be part of our everyday experience in Pacific Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Wax. Mr. Tarver, thank you for your patience.
Good evening. My name is Lyndon Tarver. I'm the president of the Monterey County NAACP. I've been the president since January. President Swanson, thank you for your leadership. And you're on target when you're saying, let's back up. Pacific Grove is known as America's last hometown. What is that saying? That reminds me of Make America Great Again. What does that mean? As you can tell by tonight, all the witnesses, racism has been going on a long time in Pacific Grove. Being a member of NAACP, I must quote a famous NAACP from Mississippi called Fannie Lou Hamer, was sick and tired of being sick and tired. We want to move forward. You put programs up, but you don't involve the people who knows about racism. If you've never been Black, you don't know what racism looks like. You know how it feels. You got experience. We've got several organizations here in Monterey County can help you with that. And not just a javelin. I'm a veteran, by the way, as well. A javelin you fire and forget is going to hit its target. And I think all too often, that's what we do. Fire the javelin and leave. Racism is still here. It's going to be here. But no child should go to school and feel uncomfortable, feel unwanted. The NAACP would like to partner with Pacific Grove as well as the leaders of this community. Help us help you. It's a shared responsibility. You don't have to do it alone. There's plenty of folks in this community that will help you. We're always here. We're always available. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tarver. Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any digital hands online. Lewis, you're not either. Okay, so after Mr. Gibbs, Dr. Gibbs, do we have anyone else here in person who would like to speak? Please raise your hand and let me know just so we can kind of gauge. Would you like to speak? Would you? Next to Heather, would you like to speak? Yes. No? Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. So it sounds like Dr. Gibbs will be our last speaker of the evening. We don't have any digital hands, like I said, and no one here in public except for Dr. Gibbs, who's going to make his way up to the podium now. Thank you.
Thank you, President Swanson. I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to come to the meeting tonight because I was there at the closed session and missed somehow the public comment. So my earlier comments were the ones I was going to make. But this has been, I don't know how to describe this evening. So I thank you, Mr. Wax. You didn't have to apologize. I've been called a lot worse. I'd like to recognize, I think there is one person of the DEI task force here. Is that right? I don't see anybody else. She's a relatively new member for the Pacific Grove. I'm an educator. My wife and I founded an education company 15 years ago. We've had 9,000 graduates, pretty much kids from all over the world. There's certain things we don't accept. We don't accept certain comments or actions or behaviors. But I would just say that, education doesn't equal learning. And Mr. Gillis, I think, mentioned discomfort. And most learning comes from some sort of discomfort, right? And I'm not here to preach or give any lessons. I'm not sure I have a whole lot of those, except that in our education business, we're all about the kids. And, I have found, and our kids are pretty young, so age 11 to 18 is the kids we serve. And these kids are pretty perceptive. And, the only thing I could say is to the board and to President Swanson, everybody talked about the kids, but I didn't hear anybody say what's in the best interest of the kids, all kids. And so when we approach things, we do things in teams. And if something comes up, if there's a conflict or somebody uses a name, we get the kids together and we talk about it. I'm not sure where that falls in your process here, right? If the kids are not involved in this, it's something done to them and not with them. And that's my experience, that's a mistake. So, whatever direction you go, I don't have any comment on that. I'm not an expert in this process, but, it's a process of learning for everybody, regardless of where you start off. And I think, again, somebody mentioned that all kids start in a place and sometimes you don't know. And when I found out a kid comes to school, they come to our program and they say unfortunate things, they say bad things. The first thing I want to know is what the heck is going on at home? What are you experiencing in your life? You're from, I was talking to Principal Roach and we were talking about doing some coaching for kids that are from broken families. And I said, I'd be willing to help out. I just don't know where people start. So my name has been mentioned 4 or 5 times tonight. That's fine. I'm kind of the only person that's a counterpoint here. And I appreciate that role. So good luck with this. Anything we can do to help. I'm not sure anybody's going to call on me. But if I can be a counterpoint or create somebody to yell at and holler at, I'm fine with that. So I appreciate what you're doing. You have a tough job and thank you for letting me speak out.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. Thank you for your time. It's 9:05. We still have lots of time left until 10 o'clock until the end of the meeting. But at this point, we're going to close out public comment for information item A. And typically after we close out public comment, we do one more round of trustee comments. So Trustee Otmar, any further comments?
I have a lot of comments, but I don't think that I can formulate them right now. I hear what everybody is saying. I wish there was a balance. I agree, this is not something that can happen and be done. And by no means should even considering this be that this is 5 weeks and we're finished. That's an impossibility. This is something that needs to continue and continue and continue. I'm glad we're not having to decide on anything tonight because I am having a hard time containing myself. That's all for now.
Thank you, Trustee Otmar. Trustee Brian Swanson.
I appreciate everybody's comments. And I'm glad that we just kind of opened it up and went on as long as everybody felt necessary. In looking at this initially, I did not really think that it was a definitive thing. I thought it was, this is where we start. And then part of this and what we do with this is, like I'd mentioned before, it's like, let's let our community inform how we move forward. But I want to start somewhere. And I think that was with this, and then listening to what people have to say. I think we heard a lot of really great things, but I'm having a hard time again putting it all into words, except for, again, it's I'll just repeat what I said before. It's like, I want the community to inform what we do. I think everybody up here is really trying to listen and talk less and listen more, and then figure out what do we do with everything that we're gathering? So everything that everybody said, very valuable information. I'm taking it to heart. And I want us to be able to do the best job that we possibly can with what we're hearing to step forward and make things better. Because I get it. It is, to say that it is not ideal would be a tremendous understatement. We have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. That's all.
Thank you. My comments remain. I would like to put a pause on this training. It wasn't I think when Clerk McNary was bringing up the finances, it was, at least in my opinion, it was because we haven't seen this as a board, as a contract come through us. And so I haven't seen this come through us as a board. It was began, and maybe because it's through our attorney, staff felt that because we already have a contract with our attorney, that we would just continue to pay them hourly for this. But for me, this training falls short and possibly even creates harm, especially after hearing tonight from members of the community who are Black, that they feel that it's missing the mark in some ways. And so I'm going to defer to our community members who are here on this and ask for this to be paused, and for staff to reach out and made a list. It was the NAACP, the NCBI, BLAAC, and possibly Danny Monroe, with the Village Project or surrounding Village Project, and as well as Bruce and Whites for Racial Equity. Reach out to them and get some sort of collaboration going so that we can all be a part of it. I think that's really the way we move forward and attempt to break down this status quo. So that's what my comments remain. Trustee Dr. Hazen.
I can't say thank you enough, really, being here. I'm sorry that this burden falls repeatedly on your shoulders, but I do want to help carry it. So I'm hearing you, I'm feeling you. And yes, I appreciate what's put forth from the district, and I have faith that the district wants to take your opinions and take your expertise and take what we have learned tonight into account. So I do want to encourage, Interim Superintendent Joran to take this into account if we can move forward. I mean, I heard the voice, from Brandy too, though, that our kids, one more day that our kids are feeling unwelcome in our schools is one day too much. Mm-hmm. So we need to be incorporating the community in this solution. So again, and I just have to say, your comments, President Swanson, about ignorance fall wholeheartedly on me too. I am ignorant as well to this, and I am here because I do want to make change and I do want to learn. So thank you for helping educate us as well.
Do you feel that implementing this program, because 1 out of 5 has started, so do you feel like continuing this program will translate to Brandy Trujillo's Rivera's student feeling safe at school immediately?
I am not an educator. I mean, this is why I'm on the board, is to help the educators make the right decision and help them, be informed to make the right decision. So I do have faith. I would love to hear back from, let me put it this way, I would love to hear back from the district as soon as possible how the plan will evolve based on what we've learned tonight.
Thank you. And just to reiterate, or I don't know if I said it before, so on the agenda, this is an information discussion item. So this is not an item that the board votes on, yay or nay. This is an item that we receive information and we can give direction on, but it's not a full approval or unapproval.
Ask a question.
Yes.
And also make a statement. Sorry for my tears, or for not being able to contain that. I would like to be able to speak, and it's hard to speak through my tears. I suppose my question or my wondering is, when this first session happened, I guess I'm and maybe this can't be discussed, but I'm wondering what that was like. Is there an opening? Are people discussing freely? I mean, and I suppose for me, I feel like that's where it starts, is at least people sort of bearing their souls a little bit and being honest about things. And I want to make sure that people are in an environment where they feel like they can do that. Because as a white man sitting in a room with a black man, is there going to be honesty happening in expression? I don't know what the right answer is, and I don't even really know if what I'm saying makes sense. I just want to be able to thank you. I just want to get the conversation started honestly so that people are open and we move forward, and then it doesn't stop. It's gonna suck. It's gonna hurt. And I want people to be able to let it suck and let it hurt in a way that's genuine and real, and not like a bunch of,
This
just
is
like puppet hands, exactly like that. So I guess that's where I'm at. And I wish I could sit up here and say, I know what the right answer is. And this is it's a lot of pressure up here because I'm just a white lady sitting up here making big decisions. It's strange and heavy. That was more than a question. And I'm not sure what my question was. Oh, here it is. Yeah, the question was, kind of what that experience was like, if it felt genuine. And then also, how are the kids going to be involved? Because Mr. Gibbs, I agree with what you were talking about. The kids have to be involved. It can't just be the staff. It can't just be administration, because things are happening at home. Conversations are happening on the playground. Your kid comes home and says something and you're like, what? So it's that too. There's so many pieces to this, but those are the things that pop into my head as well. Thanks, everybody.
Director Okerman, would you like to answer?
Yes, just, I know that there was a question asked about what is the demeanor really in the room. And, and it's hard to speak for everybody on, the administration team, but I don't think that there's, a person on the management team that's going through the meetings that doesn't in their heart want to be part of the change in the district. So as far as that goes, I think that people are willing to open up in the way that you have to open up to really make this kind of change happen. And, the people are ready to do the difficult work. And just one other aspect of it, I don't think that it's ever been the intention of the district to somehow think that this program is the answer to systemic change for us. The purpose of this program was to try to equip the administration with the ability to handle those incidents of bias with more knowledge and more background than we have now. I agree 100% that our entire team would benefit from a longer term relationship and learning experience, and really, a transformation, if you will. We want to do right by every single child that comes to our district, and knowing that we're not, that makes us feel like, we got into the business of education feeling like it was the most important work to be done in the world, right? To help people learn in order to give themselves opportunities in life. And so we want to do it the right way, not just for most of our children, but for every single one of our children that comes through. So yes, we are open to do that work and to put forth that kind of deep work that needs to get done. And I think we have folks that are going to be able to help guide that. So.
Okay. Let's see. Trustee Brian Swenson, you spoke, I spoke, Dr. Hazen, you just spoke, Clerk McNary. Thank you.
I am in agreement with the proposed direction of President Swanson to pause this work, take a step back and engage with the community and the exceptional resources that have been offered to us. I think, we are talking about putting money into things, and I have no hesitation to put money towards supporting all of our students. I just don't think this is the right mechanism. I don't have the answer, but it sounds like we have a lot of offers. And I think it would be against our best interest to not pivot and change direction and direct our resources elsewhere. So I would be in agreement with the proposed direction you stated.
Thank you, trustee Hazen. You wanted to speak again?
Yeah, I would love to ask, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot, Mr. Jordan, acting superintendent Jordan, apologies, is I would love to hear your response to this. If you feel comfortable giving it, is this something that needs to be paused, or is this something we can take into account the lessons we are hearing tonight that we can adapt? I mean, yeah.
Right. So the partnerships that have been mentioned tonight and the supportive direction that's been mentioned tonight is absolutely something that the district wants. We developed this framework 4 months ago. By no means was this meant to be delivered over the course of a 5-week period of time. The next session we have is at the end of October, and the session after that isn't even scheduled. I feel like stopping right now, when literally we're dealing with incidents every single day in our school, is not advantageous to students whatsoever. I am absolutely in favor of, and I have been from the moment we began this discussion, including our community partners in this endeavor. And by that, I mean, absolutely, we would hand off the design curriculum right now to work with the community leaders before we move forward on the 26th of October or on the end of November. I just feel like I have a concern that putting more time in between something that's so important. I mean, we're dealing with this at the schools every single day. It's really important that we begin moving forward. This is not something we're planning to do quickly. It's not something we're planning to orchestrate over 1 fiscal year or 2 fiscal years. This is forever. Okay. And that's coming from me. That's coming from our entire administration. We need to work with the teachers, the instructional aides, the paraprofessionals, the folks that have the one-to-one work with the students, right? So it has to start somewhere. We have to start rolling the rock down the road. Can we slow it down? Absolutely. Can we put a barrier in front to pause it? Sure. But what I don't want to see is us stop anything. We can retool and readjust. That's the most important part of education. I think that's what we do every single day with students. And I think it's extremely important. You know, everyone has a story, and I have mine, and I'm not going to project it here tonight, but I am from this community, and it is not okay for me if one child, one more day, experiences racism. Now, unfortunately, that's probably going to happen, and I will say that openly and honestly because I'm not a fool and I understand that. But I don't want to lose one more day of action. I just don't. So if I can engage with the NCBI, with the NAACP, with every single partner that was discussed tonight, maybe I don't use the term partner, community. If I can engage immediately, I'm talking tomorrow, and share with everyone what it is this district's planning to do and what has already been orchestrated in one meeting, which was really just laying the foundation. You know, it's very important that our administrators have confidential space to have conversations. And I think that the door was opened Tuesday when we did this, to feel safe to say things that they maybe would not say in public, or maybe they would not say with their colleagues in any other time than a safe space, because we need to learn from this entire experience. And I can tell you this right now, every single teacher, every single administrator is 100% behind ending what's happening in our schools right now, not only in this school district. How do we get there? That's the question. Can we get there expeditiously? I don't think that's an answer that's realistic. And we do need to retool and rethink. And I think that's a crucial component of all of this. So back to what I said, I am fully open to, and I have from the moment we started this, been open to advice, guidance, assistance, anything to help, because we're all a community, we're all human beings, and this is wrong what's happening to little children, to teenage children, to adults in our community. And I want to put an end to it. So I'm open to everything and anything that can be considered and put on the table for us. I'm concerned that if we stop, we're just letting another day go by and another incident potentially occur.
Well, and to be clear, the first session started October 3rd. The next session is when?
25th of October.
The 25th of October. So I think the collaborating with the community who have made offers tonight, getting contracts rolling with them. I am not, as an individual board member, I will say out loud, I am not interested in gaining their expertise for free. We need to pay for their professional expertise. So we would need to get contracts rolling if you want to start on October 25th. I don't know if that's enough time to really have what these folks have soak into this program. Right now, we have a program where appearing white folks are asking our majority white staff for input with our attorneys in the room. To me, that doesn't scream, we're moving forward. This is gonna trickle down to our kids being safer. So that's where I stand on this. So if we pause it and it comes back once we have time to begin absorbing what these incredible experts have to say, I would be in favor of that, but I don't know if that's possible by October 25th. Do we need to go around for another round of trustee comments? Okay, I'm happy to do that. Trustee Otmar?
You know, I wonder if it's possible to do it all, right? I mean, it sounds like there was some progress made just in the trust and the expression that was happening in that room. I think that's an important first step. It doesn't mean, and by engaging all of these community partners, I don't think that it means we have to shut this down. I think it's possible to do all of it. I think that if we are going to make this part of our fabric, that it has to, I guess I just don't see the harm in doing all of it. You know, this may be a way to open up the gates and then the rest comes in. And I don't know that trying to press it on a timeline of the 25th or, you know, make it this specific date or that specific date. I mean, it has to happen and it has to happen continually. I would like to continue with this. And then within, maybe not even just within this, but start here and continue with all of this community input. Ongoing, not just this year, ongoing. This is the start. That's how I feel.
I hear that point. However, we have a finite amount of professional development days and hours. And so I would hope that the time that we are taking can be absolutely maximized with the most impactful. And so I have now stated my opinion many times, so I will stop. So next up, Trustee Brian Swanson.
I would like to keep moving forward, knowing again that this is less than perfect. And we've gotten a lot of input tonight, and I know we will get more. It's obvious that the input is really welcomed and it was incredibly valuable. And again, it's like we want to keep listening, but just when I look at the calendar too, it's like if there's just so much going on in the district right now too, and we only have so many meetings that I don't want to pause this only to then, then when are we getting to it again? Is it November, December? Is it next year? And like Josh said too, every additional incident that happens is one too many. You know, I think additionally, what we're talking about with this mostly is trying to give our staff more or greater ability to deal with these things. There's a whole lot more that has to be done, that deals not with just our schools, but also with our community in general too. And one of the things that I would like to see as we build this is, where are we with the city council? Where are we with police and fire on this too? Where are we with other community services? That's all going to take a lot of time, but we need to talk about that. In the meantime, we do have incidents that are happening every day, and our staff needs help in dealing with that. So I do want to, so there's that. And I just want to kind of repeat what I said a second ago too. What are we going to do with the rest of our community? How do we bring those players into it? Because, and that's been a missing thing, I think, for a long time. I don't know if we've ever had that. It's like, what is school board doing with city council, and how are we connecting with all that? You know, we talk about this being a great community, but we're still, everybody's home, you know, at the end of the day with their blinds closed, and we're not really super connected. How do we become more of a community? I would like to see that, and for us to maybe be one of the really kind of motivating forces behind that and making that happen here.
Thank you, Trustee
Yeah.
Bryan. Trustee Dr. Hazen.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly on this, I feel, again, agreement with much of what's said. And I mean, I really, you know, I want to again go back to Assistant Superintendent Jordan or Acting Superintendent Jordan, and you know, put that in your hands, that do what we can. As you said, reach out tomorrow. Let's make as much of the community's input starting tomorrow, so that we can take this plan and make it what it needs to be to work towards the long-term solution while still keeping that ball rolling. I hate the idea of saying we're going to stop anything at this point, but I love the idea of making sure we are doing it right as we go. And course correcting was a term that I heard that it resonated well with me.
For me. So, you know, as President Swanson mentioned, you know, it's very tough to have a number of professional development days within our district. I mean, we have very, very few for our instructional staff. So the entire schedule here was driving towards February 19th. I know that's a ways out. That's a ways out. And that's why I don't want to lose another second of time. But that also gives us time to reshuffle, reevaluate, recreate, bring in the team and work on things together. Because February 19th is our professional development day with our instructional staff. That's not to say that between now and February 19th, some of the actionable items can't be put into place at the sites every single day. They can. I mean, even just the meeting that we had this past week, the results were a team approach to response. No one individual member, no one individual staff member, no one individual administrator will be the point in handling situation of biases as they result daily, right? We need to, it's a team approach, right? It's really important. That was one of the takeaways from Tuesday night, was just like the children are not in this alone, the staff cannot be in this alone to respond and deal with the perpetrator and help support the victim. And for a long time, that's what was occurring. Single point, single contact. That's not, that needs to change. It has to change today, yesterday, it has to change. So the takeaway from Tuesday night from our administrative team was supporting them immediately with incidents that occur. And unfortunately, we've had to deal with them already. And that's why it concerns me when we talk about stopping something. I think retooling and reshuffling is a better term to use here. We have a lot of educated folks in this room that can help this school district. And by no means are we fully committed and married to the framework that has been developed. By no means. This is flexible. We're flexible. The entire program itself is flexible, and this district is doing this for the long run. I mean, I speak for Director Rogerman. I mean, he's in charge of professional development. This is not the only targeted solution that we have right now. It's just the first. So I'd like to see us moving forward as expeditiously as possible to meet that February date where we have something we can bring that's phenomenal to our educators that work day to day with the students on the ground.
I know that's not my turn, but if you don't mind. One of the things that's helpful for the professional development of the management team is that, we meet whenever we're told to meet. So there's going to be a lot more time that's available to work with the admin team to start into place even a parallel approach, right? Continuing forward with the process that was presented tonight with the influence of other training and input from our community members, and also doing some of the transformative work as we go so that we can retool and adjust in an appropriate way. And then, yes, on the 19th, come up with something phenomenal for the rest of staff. But for the rest of staff too, we have opportunities on those Thursdays at the elementary school and the middle school to implement more training and more programs. And within the contract, we do have the ability to call a monthly meeting for professional development purposes at the high school level too. So we've got opportunities to do ongoing learning. And that's truly what it's going to take based on the input that we've heard and what we know about learning. I'll sit down.
If I may, just one last comment. No contract's going to get in the way of getting moving on this. Okay. President Swanson mentioned, right, we have Lozano Smith because we pay attorney fees and it's easy to pay billable, but that doesn't necessarily mean that tomorrow we can't begin a contract that we bring retroactively back to the board. Okay, right. What I think is most important, and it's been echoed in this room tonight, is partnership. So I don't think a contract and timing associated with the approval of a contract should get in the way of that. And that's me speaking freely. Our board approves the contracts, but I don't think a contract should get in the way of us starting tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay, with that, board, do we have, more comments?
I have just one more quick one.
Okay, Elliot, please.
Very quick one. Line. And again, apologies to put the burden on your shoulder again, but I ask and implore you, if we are not doing it right, let us know moving forward. We want to know that as a board.
If they're involved, if we involve everyone.
And this is what we are directing. And we have said, I feel there was direction from almost everyone, if not the majority, that we want the community involved tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not doing it right, please let us know. If that's not happening, if you feel that is not happening, please let us know.
I want to say yes so badly, but I'm so sorry. Thank you. So we heard from a community member just now that they would like for us to have a tracking system. It has been spoken of several times tonight that, this is ongoing. This is happening in our schools over and over on a daily, perhaps basis. And so the community member, Ms. Angelis, was asking if we could have a tracking system for that. So we can have some data, right? So that we can really get to the heart and start building relationships and moving forward. So Mr. Jorn, I, as a trustee, I am taking on her question and I'm asking it now to
Absolutely.
you. Okay.
So, before being interim superintendent, I'm a numbers person. That's my background. I'm a business person. I am all about metrics. And I think this was said earlier tonight. The unfortunate reality that we're dealing with here is that when we have an anonymous reporting system and systems where we can track, the unfortunate part is the metrics are going to go up a lot higher than we think. But I think it's not good that that's happening, but it gives us an ability to understand what is the baseline right now. Again, numbers guy, sorry. Okay. But what is the baseline? What are we really dealing with here? Because I don't think anyone really knows. Some of them go unreported because there's not a trusted adult at the school site. I mean, I think of a kinder through a third grade child other than confiding in their parents, is there a trusted adult at a site that they can confide in? More likely than not. How much time goes on between when that student is being affected and they report it to their parent because they don't have a trusted adult at the site. So these are problems that we face and they're real and we absolutely need to track them. But I believe that tracking them, the numbers are going to go up dramatically, that it shows us where we're at and it helps us with a solution moving forward. I'm bringing Sandy Hook Promise. This is not a fix all, but I'm bringing Sandy Hook Promise to the board meeting on the 26th. And we're going to talk about the anonymous reporting tool, see something, say something. It's a start. By all means, it helps us with anonymous reporting. On the other end of that, there are counselors that can talk to students that don't work for this school district, that don't even know who they are, right? That's a good thing. They can open up, students can begin to open up either over, I mean, geez, I can't believe it. Students have phones in 4th grade now. It's crazy, but they know how to use these things, right? And if they're not comfortable with the trusted adult at school and they're fearful to go home and tell their parents, maybe they can talk to a stranger over text. Maybe, I don't know. We're trying to do something. So that's coming forward next, and it will help us track, as you mentioned, the metrics.
Thank you, Mr. Jorn. So at this time, board, can we boil down direction for this item, please? I'll start with, I have trustee Otmar here as the starter.
This is information discussion. You want me to give direction?
Mm-hmm.
How so?
It's so on the agenda where it says direction. So as a board, we can either say, great job, keep it going. We can say, let's pause, regroup, include our community members, things
see.
like that.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned right now, I mean, I say great job and keep it going with the understanding that this is flexible and malleable and with the input from our community members that are here. I'm not in favor of stopping anything. I think the sooner the better and the longer the better and the more input, the better.
Thank you, trustee Otmar. Trustee Brian Swanson?
I'm in favor of continuing forward, but also with everybody who is here tonight from any organization that we reach out to them and see how we can involve them further in this discussion.
Thank you.
Being part of the program.
Thank you. Dr. Hazen?
If it's okay, I would love to hear, because both yourself and trustee McNary had a goal to stop. I'd love to hear your thoughts before I speak, if that's okay.
Okay.
Have we moved the needle enough, in your opinion, to feel like this is where direction should be?
No. Not for me.
Me neither.
I do agree with the idea of pausing, not stopping, pausing and reaching out to the community, finding out things like, how can we right away implement zero tolerance? I don't want to wait till February for that. You know, I think these are things that the community can bring to us. Adding the police to the community, don't know about this idea at this time. I would defer to the community who has been most impacted by racism for, I don't know, 800 years. So, yeah, so I would say I am in favor of pausing and even go so far as to say scrapping this. And because these are professionals who are professionally trained in educating folks in these exact ways. And I don't know if any of this resonates with what they would be bringing to us. So I would have a fear that we would say, here's the framework, come to the meeting. Oh, thanks so much for your idea. And then be trying to like plug their input into the framework instead of saying, we are here. We will make a document that reflects what you all are bringing to us. So that's what I'm in favor of. Sorry, is that enough, Elliot? Or you want to hear from Clerk McNair?
I would be happy to. I mean, the way you said that, again, it resonates 100% with me. And I would say, I would like to have this brought back at the next meeting with the specifics of, can it be done right in this framework after engaging with the community or not? And if the answer is not, I'm supportive of that, but I would like to give our district and the community a chance to work together before giving an explicit direction on this needs to stop versus we need something new, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was just, for the sake of time, I'm just saying, you know what, from what I'm hearing tonight, scrap it. Just get their input. Clerk McNary?
Yeah, I share the same perspective. I think if we're talking about involving the community and people of color, this was curriculum prepared for a white presenting board by white presenting people and attorneys and consultants just by looking at photos. And that's really problematic. So yeah, I mean, pause at minimum and then go from there. That's where I'm at, Trustee Hazen.
No, I appreciate that. And if pause is that it seems like the pause is the minimum. I'm 100% on board with supporting that. But that's I realize that's not the complete board, and I wish it were, but I think that we need to move forward in the right way here.
Thank you. So it appears that we have a board majority asking to pause current. Thank you, Mr. Jordan, for offering to reach out as early as tomorrow to the folks who are offering their assistance. And it's possible that we don't need to bring them back as a separate agenda item because you're going to be like, you would be bringing that back as the collaborator and the lead on that. So it sounds like we have a majority of the board who is asking for a pause and complete, what's the best word, Elliot? Revamp. I don't know what to say.
Like I said, I would like to put my trust in our district to work with them and tell us,
Okay.
with the community's input, can this be revamped? Does this need to be scrapped? You know, we've heard the voices. I would like to put this in their hands. And then on the 25th, if it needs to be scrapped, we hopefully will by that time have a new proposal with the community input by then. That would be my goal. But I don't like telling people to stop that want to make change, if that makes sense. I understand that change, if misplaced, can cause hurt. And obviously I don't want that either.
Yeah, no one's asking for a stop on progress of change. We're saying, let's do it in the appropriate, educated, most collaborative, healing way possible. While acknowledging that it's not on this, it's not in this, on this dais. Okay. Mr. Jordan, will you repeat out the direction, make sure that I've communicated it clearly because it was kind of disjointed. So what do you have?
We're going to take a pause. We're going to meet with our community partners and look at retooling what we have right now. And if it can be retooled and repackaged, we will continue moving forward with an October 25th meeting. And if it's not, then it sounds like we're stopping.
Creating something brand new, I would say, instead of stopping. Yeah, okay, got it. Majority or board members, are you okay with that? I just want to make sure we at least have a majority, and I'm not just saying that we have a majority. So I am counting myself, I'm counting Dr. Hazen, and I'm counting Clerk McNary. Trustee Otmar?
I am okay with, to me, that doesn't necessarily sound like a pause. It sounds like a revamping and with a hopeful continuation on time. That I'm in favor of. I just don't want to pump the brakes and then the brakes get pumped again because it's not perfection.
That won't happen because the board's dedicated.
I understand that, but I also want to make sure that it's not going to be perfect. I know that there's never going to be a perfect way to do it. And I think that if there's, there's a lot of, I don't want to create tension on the board, so I'm not going to talk about that, but I just want to make sure that, that it continues. And so if a revamping is happening, then I suppose it's not necessarily a pause. I'm on board with that.
Okay.
I just don't want there to be eye rolling and huffing and all of this because it's not exactly the way that you imagine it should be.
The way that I imagine it should be?
No, I'm saying in general that, yeah, I'm not talking to you.
Realizing that it may come back and it may not be perfect.
It may not
but
be
it's
what
gonna
you
be,
imagine in your mind.
It's gonna be
and-
advanced.
But it's gonna be better than what we've got.
Okay.
And
got
as
it.
long as the community is involved, in a large way, I think that we'll be okay.
Thank you.
That was wordy, but thanks for
Well, I
listening.
think we're all having conversations that are new, sometimes new for us, like
So
all of
grateful
us.
for this
So
too. I mean, this feels like a really, this has been such a learning process for me, and I'm really grateful for everybody that's here and sharing. And so thank you on a very deep personal level.
mhm.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Trustee Brian, any closing thoughts on this?
My position remains as it was before. It's like, I think we have a really great and dedicated staff that has done, has said tonight that they're willing to, at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, begin to engage with new partners in this, with everybody that's spoken in this room. And, but that's not where the rest of the board is. So, go for it.
Okay, so majority direction is as it stands, as you said, Mr. Jorn. We're gonna close this item out. Maybe we'll take a 3-minute break. We don't have a whole lot of time before 10 o'clock, but just 3-minute break because it's possible that folks who are here right now would like to leave, and we can do that in the least disruptive way, so you feel comfortable leaving and not like you have to sneak out or be really quiet. So we're just going to take 3 minutes. You are absolutely welcome to stay until the very end of the meeting. The next item is future agenda items. We'll be back at 9:52. Thank you all. Mr. Jordan, your face. We're gonna make a motion to extend the meeting. I will make a motion to extend the meeting until 10:15. I think
I'll
that'll give
second
us
that.
plenty of time. Okay, motion made by Carolyn Swanson, seconded by Dr. Hazen. We are moving right along. Mandy, you still there? Okay, yes, I see you there. Okay, here we are. Our next item is excuse me, Mr. Williams, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Our information, what?
Do we need to vote or extending?
Yes, yes, motion made by Carolyn Swanson, seconded by Dr. Hazen. Mandy, can we get a quick roll call or a quick majority vote, please?
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously. We're rolling right along. Future agenda items. We've got some lists here. Mr. Jordan, I'll start with you. Anything you want to add, change, etc.?
Sorry, just 1 second. Let me take a look.
You know what? Let me start with somebody else. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Trustee Brian Swanson, anything?
No.
Okay. Dr. Hazen.
Nope, this is very full. I like it.
We're working on them. We will work on them. Clerk McNary, anything?
Question for you. If we were to look at a zero tolerance policy, is that something we would start with in policy committee, or would that be a board agenda item?
That would probably start at policy committee.
Okay.
And are we talking about a zero tolerance policy district wide? Is that where we're
Yes,
discussing?
yes,
For racism.
for
specifically.
Yeah, okay.
racism specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, it would start at policy committee.
Okay, then I do not have a future agenda item. I will get that started for policy committee.
Okay, and our next policy committee is October 23rd, I want to say,
2 weeks.
at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
So, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Trustee Otmar?
Nope, nothing.
Nothing? Okay, I made some scribbles, so I'm just gonna look at my scribbles for a moment. See if I have anything. Okay, my scribbles were related to the community groups who are offering their assistance, but Mr. Jordan, you're on that, so I don't need to put that on here. We will look forward to seeing that come back at some time. Okay, any public comment on future agenda items? And for any member of the public who's curious how they can ask for a future agenda item, that is absolutely welcome. And we have an online form where you can do that. And if you can't find it, I'm happy to send it to you, but you can Google PGUSD board or Pacific Review. And then it's kind of like, it's right at the top, but I'm happy to send it out to anybody. My email address is cswanson@pgusd.org, but also Mr. Jordan would be more than happy. I mean, anyone can get it to you. Okay. Lewis, anyone online with their digital hand? Okay. And anyone here as a member of the public, because you can also, as a member of the public, ask for a future agenda item here in person. Yes. Yeah, the form would be incredible because then it's in writing and we have a whole system of tracking. Okay. Thank you. Miss Beth. Okay, thank you. That's all I have. So any other further board direction for Mr. Jordan on future agenda items? I don't see any. Okay, so with that, we will adjourn. It's 10:03. Thank you all.